Yeah.
We're gonna have the gamer chair going. It'll be a good old time.
Yeah. What does the Twitter thing? Does it do it automatically?
Yeah, it
Is
just
that,
does it automatically as soon as you go live. So hello Twitter, hello Bird app.
yeah,
You
we're
know,
on Twitter now too. So there you go. Let's see. Let's go to my profile. Let's see if it works.
yeah.
Um.
It
Oh,
does
it's
feel
working. Oh my god.
Yeah, it does feel like a very insider baseball kind of episode, you know.
Yeah.
It's the
I mean,
bubble
it
episode. It's
is.
the fly episode, but it's the bird
Yeah.
episode.
Oh, we have Dudley Newright. So all right, add to the stream. Hello, my friend.
What's up, fellas? Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Oh my god, that's a great voice. I was worried about that. I thought you like that was like that one Twitter space with Carlsbad where the guy had like a no, never mind. How are you doing, my friend? Dudley Newray, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing wonderful.
Good. Wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming
Uh
on.
yeah, this is great. So, um Crew, do you want to do the introduction?
Sure. Hello, everybody.
Alright.
Welcome to episode 35 of the Digital Archipelago. We are covering, well, everyone's favorite place to be on these days, Twitter, and we are joined by Dudley Newright of the Newright Post.
Thanks.
Amazing, incredible. Sorry, I'm literally just doing the share to my to the thing. So, anyways, yeah. So we have Dudley Newright and whoa, that's really loud. So how are you, my friend? How are things? Uh,
I'm good. Tomorrow is posting day, so just harvesting the latest memes, and yeah, I appreciate the love from you guys so far.
mining the latest coal.
Yeah. So, are we gonna talk about that later, or do you want to talk about Cole now?
Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Let's do the general introduction. So, you do the Newright Post, which is like there was always iterations of this. Like I remember
Yeah.
Social Matter did one. I used to love like looking every single week to see if I got on the Social Matter one. But so basically you do a roundup of all of the different posts and articles and good content of this thing of ours, if I recall.
Yeah, I
So
think that so the one I've been thinking about doing this for years before I actually started doing it, and there was someone who it was called like Frog Weekly or something like that,
yeah.
Yeah.
and I don't know what happened to that person. They disappeared, so I saw that as my moment to strike, and yeah, I think that I was I'm just continually impressed by all the stuff that's being put out by this quote unquote community, and it's happening not just on Twitter but all over the place. And I was already just kind of obsessively consuming all this content, and so I figured it's really not much more of a lift to collect it and add a light editorial glaze on top, um, in one handy place for people like me who are maybe a little bit more busy than I am, and don't want to follow thousands of e-right freaks.
Yeah, that is true. And so that's great. Like you really do a good job, I feel, of like getting a good picture of the scene. But are you outside right now? Like what's that
No, I'm in my office. It's dead silent. So if you're hearing interference, maybe I need to do something to my setup.
yeah, I think like just noise cancellation or something because people are like it almost reminds me of future Moldovan citizen in Twitter spaces like that the nice
I did touch my mic there for if it's just like if it's still happening now, then something has to change. But
maybe just go away from your mic a little bit. That's usually what it
okay.
is. But
All right.
anyways, so we wanted to talk about like I guess the question would be like is there like a scene? Like what
Yeah.
constitutes this thing of ours? Um so like yeah. So first of all, I guess whenever we have a new guest, I don't know, you like usual usual like podcast subject would be like what was your like first oh god, it's so cliche to ask, but like what's your first red pill? I guess would be the
Yeah. No,
appropriate
I
question.
expected such a line of questioning. So I actually am in media in my by day, and my alter ego. So this is kind of like my world already, and
Mm.
I was already someone who tracked a lot of like the discourse, and the chatter online, and I guess it was probably, I mean, so my first red pill, I'll just say, like, I was kind of raised somewhat conservative, and
Oh yeah.
so none of these ideas were like terribly foreign to me. My parents, when I was growing up, listened to a lot of like talk radio and Rush Limbaugh and stuff like that. So
Oh, nice. Yeah.
so like, yeah, I mean, I'm like 6 and 7 years old listening to Rush Limbaugh all day long, and but I went through the kind of Lolbert phase that everyone goes through, and came out the other side, like probably via what's his name, Democracy, the God That Failed. Uh,
Oh,
Hans
Hop,
Hermapapa.
yeah,
Sherman Hopper.
Hoppe. Um, but I think for me, it was way less about politics and more about culture, and just recognizing that the kind of tastemakers that I looked up to growing up that I thought were cool and interesting gradually becoming like extremely lame, from like 2012, 2014 onwards. And part of that's due to like what people have called the Great Awakening, or like, I guess like Gamergate was kind of an impetus for this.
Mm.
Something changed in the water or in the air, and the people that the kind of cool people creating our culture, I think lost the mandate of heaven, and the most interesting, funny people who are making stuff now are in our little sphere, or in this little sphere, uh, and which is why I'm interested in tracking it. So yeah, like I care way less about what's politically correct as I do about what's interesting, and it's clear to me that the when you read movie reviews today or music reviews or whatever, I just feel totally alienated from the mainstream point of view on this stuff, and that wasn't always the case. Like I feel like that's with the last 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's kind of what got me to where I am now, is just this realization that and like I said, I work in media. I'll be as vague as I possibly can, but
Mm.
it has been my job to like be adjacent to those tastemakers, and I saw the sea change happen pretty up close, where you would have like directives from your boss, or to basically say like, we got to get on board this bandwagon, and because that's where the clicks are coming from, or the eyeballs are coming from. And I think it started out somewhat cynically, but over time, like, you can see the people who are like the activist agitators, who might have been in like lower level positions, like rise up through the ranks, and now those are the people who are kind of running the show.
Yeah.
And I'm not some kind of like Ben Shapiro-esque culture warrior, like who's gonna hate on the Oscars all day. But I think the correct posture towards this culture is just recognizing how stupid and lame it is, and not necessarily try to like win people over with facts and logic. I think we have to have a condescending posture toward the mainstream, and it's easy to do because it's so dumb.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the original wave of like those alt-light culture warriors, they sort of had that, like, Sargon chuckling at the SJWs. But I guess like that was different than a sort of like heroic laughter, like, Nietzsche talks about serious laughter. Um I think cuz like they were sort of like just cataloging the end of things into like terminal woke speed, warp speed, woke speed. I hate using the term because it's such like a stupid. Prude, help me out here. What's that woman? That silly woman that that couldn't come up with a definition of woke.
I think her last name was Mandel or something. I think she
Bethany
was
Mandel.
Bethany Mandel.
Bethany Mandel.
Yeah, she couldn't come up with a definition for it in an interview, and everyone's been laughing. And then on the other side, you have people saying that woke is akin to saying the N word. So I mean, we've got more gamer words now, which is always a pleasure. But no, I think that there's a truth to that. Like very early on, there was sort of a laugh at the decline type of deal where there was a sneering at how stupid this whole little, SJW scene was. And as it's evolved into sort of this, bureaucratized institutional monstrosity it is, I think that, one of the better things that has really come out of this scene as of late has been the fact that people are writing and actually creating things. Like I'm not on Twitter as often right now during Lent, but like I always look forward to like the weekly Newright Post in my inbox because it's just like I don't have time to like keep up with like night owls or things like that. So it's nice to like have a nice tidy hear what my mutuals are saying, hear what the people I follow are saying, which is good. But also I think now there's this sort of condescending attitude in that we are coming down from a different plane, even though we're all sort of anons from various different walks of life that are creating things. So, I mean, like, this is why I like what you're doing, Dudley. This is why I like what Art of Darkness and the Newright podcast are doing. Like, we're there's finally more than just culture warriors and facts and logic debate bros. Like, we've transcended the internet blood sports of yesteryear, and people are writing actually decent fiction and putting good stuff out there, which is always appreciated.
There was something that I was going through my old caps, and by the way, I see the W towers, the woke towers in the comments. So if need those super chats, by the way, fellas. I'm very sorry I didn't get a chance to put out anything this week, but next week I have a very special guest. Yes, exactly, Prude. Need those super chats to ask Dudley Newright and of course us questions. But I know that I'm terrible with if I see an interesting comment, I always highlight it. Maybe I should chill even harder and like not address the audience and punish them. Because Lord knows I love punishing my audience. So our audience, us. Oh boy. But anyways, it reminds me of this. I was going through my old screen caps, and one of them was, I believe around the time, it was on 4chan. It was around the time the Thermometer magazine packed it in. And I remember there was this person that said that he was a poet that got published in mainstream industry type of publications. I have a suspicion it's Arthur Powell that wrote that. I have to actually send him this cap. But he said like there was one thing that my former editor at Thermometer, which I know I probably shouldn't bring up because he was, ousted from the scene. He said like the problem is when you just critique is sort of like to use a Virilioan term, it's like a pitiless art. It's sort of like it has a limitation because of the fact that it's a spectacle and the fact that it's extreme and it's sardonic and it's biting, but can only give you so far. And that actually, if we invest our time in creating things, then that is probably better service than the sort of usual content that we produce. And don't get me wrong, I think that critique is valid in the sense of it has derived some of the heights of content that we've witnessed from 2015, 2016 onwards. I mean, come on. Like, I mean, some of those old Gamergate stuff, that kind of, it did produce some bangers. But there's a moment where you have to, like, seriously look at yourself and you have to sort of say, like, okay, what are we doing here? Are we actually producing something meaningful that can carry on whatever notion we have of civilization onwards? I know that's like that sort of that talking point itself has become coal because of people misusing it, even people outside of the quote unquote scene that sort of talk about like the art right or reactionary chic or whatnot. Which, by the way, I have an article tomorrow coming out that's going to talk a little bit about this with an anon. We go back and forth on this question. But, Dudley, is it okay if I call you Dudley? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't start out with this name. It just came to me a few weeks after I started, but I think I'm gonna keep it.
Yeah. Bulwery Dudley. No, but yeah. What do you think? Like, yeah, I guess definitely what you're doing is interesting because you sort of try to sift out the gem from the coal, if you will. And yeah, I mean, go ahead, go ahead, my friend. I don't know
So
where
what's
I'm
the
going with that
question?
one. No, what do you think of like that general point of like where do you see the development of things from when I'm assuming like you entered around that time of like 2016, 2015. Like things are quite different now. And I feel like
Yeah.
there's a sense of exhaustion with things. And I don't know, like just by being like kind of like what me and Prude do and what you do, we're all sort of like a cartographer of this thing of ours. And so I don't
Yeah.
know, like, do you notice a shift in things?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the libs kind of, they don't know what's coming, but we're seeing glimpses of it. And like, I see
Yeah.
it, you see it with like the Anna and Dasha crowd. Like, those are a couple of hot babes who are not afraid to be based. And that's like one little chip away at the wall. Um, and there's the Delicious Tacos movie. That's, I don't know exactly what's the status of that is, if it's in production or, but obviously I'm excited to see how that turns out. I mean, I think one of the big barriers, and this has been a much discussed thing, is just that people need money. Um, People need money to make things, and in order to make big ambitious things, they need real money. Um, so I think that as this little scene gets more notoriety, the funders will be attracted to it. You'll have your like based billionaires who are happy to fritter away like 50K on someone's short film or
Yeah.
something like that. I mean, I hope so, and I think that there's actually one project that I'm really excited about, not because of the subject matter so much, although the subject matter does interest me, is Peachy Keenan's book. I don't know if you're familiar with Peachy Keenan.
Oh yeah.
She has a book coming out called Domestic Extremist, which is, I believe, published by Regnery, which is a conservative imprint of a larger publishing house. I mean, the subject matter is interesting, but what I think is going to be a game changer potentially is that she's an anon. She's operates under a pseudonym, and she has a big boy publishing deal. I don't know how much money we're talking about. I mean, publishing is pretty low stakes to begin with, even when you're in the real world of publishing.
Oh yeah.
But that's a signal that someone in the mainstream publishing industry, as far as conservative publishing is mainstream, is recognizing some value here and is willing to go out on a limb and say, like, let's publish someone under a pseudonym and see what happens. And I sure hope it's a success, because that'll be a great like justification for the idea of anons being legitimate sources of content.
Oh yeah. What was her book about? I remember she was talking about it. I also recently signed a small book deal, so
Oh,
I mean,
congratulations.
yeah, I mean, the guy I'm working with, he wants to do, he published like basically out of date books, but now he wants to go into like living authors of the scene, and I'm gonna like float some people. I'm probably gonna float him the idea of publishing Cal Crusius's book on Agamben, things like that. But what is her book about?
So
might,
her book is
yeah.
oriented around just domesticity, but more or less common sense and sort of her traditional satirical taste. Like I bought her like TV script pilot, the Whites, about cancellation, and
Oh man,
I laughed. Like it was really good. I was very impressed.
a
So
woman who is funny.
yeah, I know. It's
She's like a based mom. Like
yeah.
she
Yeah.
has a million kids, and I think the book is about basically how to like subvert the mainstream culture, and the kind of like corrosive effects of like
How to not be a woke soccer mom.
modernism, yeah, and just like survive and thrive.
I feel like there's some content, but they're just, it's locked up in boomer world, like the based like MAGA moms. We need like, we have enough moms in the scene where they could create like, like Tupperware parties and like TikToks and like mommy blogs, like just have like a whole based cottage industry of like this type
Honestly,
of.
I have this idea for basically like a media outlet, like magazine, basically about how to like entertain your kids without exposing them to like utterly paused material. Because I've got kids,
Oh yeah.
and I'll tell you, it's just a relentless fire hose of mediocrity on the streaming channels, and it's so easy to just throw something on. And I would love to get like your Conan Esquires and UGO and several other folks together to like create like a new canon of children's literature, like art, TV, music, whatever. But I mean, digital publishing's hard, so it's, as of now, it's still a pie in the sky dream I have.
Maybe me and Dora have to make that Apu book, that Apu Kids book. No, it's true. I mean, we need like, because I don't know. I guess you have in America, you have what's the Christian, like they're like Christian Hallmark Pureflix. Is that
We've got GAC, what's it called, the something American channel, Great American Channel. It's like a that's
Oh yeah,
the
that
girl
one.
from
Yeah.
Full House is in all these like Hallmark tier rom-coms and Christmas movies.
Yeah,
Oh
you've
my
got
god.
the Great American Family Media Company. It's just, and it's almost like a watered down form of like History Channel post 2012, where it's all just these kind of like country countdowns or like Farm King, like things you'd see on the History Channel. It's not great. And then on the other side of it, religiously, you have awful programming like Daystar Television. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But are they like
there's
explicitly
always
being...
Soy Kids TV, as we covered last week.
But are they like explicitly evangelical? Is that what the deal is?
Daystar is explicitly evangelical, explicitly pro-Israel, like every other program.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I oh my god, I feel like, but like like the Christian conservative movement in America, they could be doing so much with all of their money and resources
Oh
if they
man,
just...
there's so much money
Yeah,
splashing around in places like Nashville where a lot of this stuff gets made, like the kind of contemporary Christian music world.
yeah.
I grew up on all that stuff, and
Same.
I have a soft spot in my heart for a lot of it, but there's a lot of crap too, and there's very
God's
little of
not
it is
dead tier.
actually like you would want to hold up as an example of something that's going to like push culture forward.
That's what I mean. Did you see recently this TikTok that went viral where it's like we live in under fascism in America? And
Yeah.
it's like all of like the state legislatures that are based, and it's just a list of like, wholly based keyed legislation. But I feel like there is momentum on the political right in America. It's just that the way to like instantiate, because I feel like the way that the left they frame this is that and of course we want to get back to the Substack, but the way that they frame this is like, oh my god, underneath the the cover of darkness, these conservatives are like fascists putting up fascist legislation, and we're at threat level G-word-eyed level 7. It's level 7 now, apparently. The G-word-eyed of impossible women. So it's like that type of rhetoric. Of course, like when you actually look at the legislation, I'm sure Prude, like you maybe know more of this. The actual things they list are probably exaggerated and not real, or never going to get passed. But that doesn't matter. I mean, the fact that they can, I've noticed this ever since the Obama days, where they'll like frame it as behind the scenes, the Republican lawmakers are blah 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 doing this. It's like this whole like. Do you remember when all the left
the dark money thing, like as if that isn't exactly how things operate in politics across the spectrum,
Do you remember in the Obama years where all of them became policy wonks? like all the Matty Iglesias people, like the you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, right? Like this
Sure.
is ancient history right now, but you know, like yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, you had everyone wanted to be a policy wonk, or everyone was doing these undercover, like, oh, you know, the American Legislative Exchange Committee, ALEC, all these evil Republicans writing these laws. And I mean, like the state legislatures in a lot of red states act like there is a like that it's still like 1985 and like they're on the cusp of like final victory and that
Yeah.
everything's going to be accomplished under zombie Reaganism. Texas's state legislature is notoriously bad at this, where they'll act like, you know, they've got the
It's always
demographic.
Texas too.
Well, because they act like they have the demographics of like 1975, and they don't, and nothing that they actually pass is ever going to, or what they want to sign on to ever gets passed. And so, you know, and it's funny because all these culture war issues fall by the wayside when like the biggest problem in the state is like property taxes, and that our state infrastructure is not designed to have the millions of people that we have here. So but the culture war issues always, you know, they're just great barbs to throw back and forth at people, and I think it gets very easy to, for like people in our space, like they kind of recognize that, like, well, these barbs that get thrown back and forth in this like procedural kabuki theater of law, all that you're doing is that you're letting the issue fall by the wayside when there are people getting hurt. You know, 1,000 some odd people just stormed the border in El Paso, for God's sake. So I mean, it's just a disaster waiting to happen, and no one's pushing culture forward in the right direction. But for some reason, you know, we've got Tucker Carlson producers, new founding guys, and the Blaze TV looking at this scene very intently. Yes,
Yeah.
Donald Trump gaming, so true.
You know, going back to your point earlier about the woman who thinks that fascism has taken over, like I think one of the
threat level 7.
One of the goals
we
I
need
have,
we need to move it up to 8.
yeah, the doomsday clock. We're 11:59. One of the things that I'd like to try to subvert in what I do is this idea that Zoomers are these fragile snowflakes that are, you know, the world's going to hell because they don't have the backbone and they're weak. And I kind of see it completely oppositely. I think that boomers are the problem, and that Zoomers will be our salvation. Like for every one of those, we're now a fascist country, you know, TikTok girls, there is an autistic, like hyper based, power level off the charts freak, you know, in a basement somewhere.
That was like that tweet. I think it was Heist Graper that said I should really follow him back, even though he's got to, you know, he said that in the future you're either going to be like a non-binary TikToker, or you're going to be like a future like right-wing death squad commander. There's no in between, like with the Zoomers. So
yeah, well, for one thing, they were, so I'm an elder millennial, and I did not grow up with the internet. I didn't have it and access to it until I was a teenager, and what I did have access to then was very different from what people have now. So I think that it's very much like you know, what's the Bane quote about being raised in the darkness?
You merely adopted it. I was
yeah,
born into it, molded by it. Yeah.
like today's autistic Zoomer youth brigades are so ahead of where I was at their age in terms of just like their ability to spot bullshit and develop like exciting alternatives, whether that's art or just commentary. I'm just continually impressed, like, and that's part of the reason why I started the Newright Post, is because I just kept seeing such like hilarious stuff and interesting stuff, and you know, like feeling like somebody had to document it. And I'm already noticing, I'm only I started in October, so I'm just a few months into this, but like I go back and look at the archive of some of the first posts I did, and half the content is just gone.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. I'm going to start just like screenshotting everything
or archiving them.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess if Substack, if you get it by email, that email will just be intact when you open it. Or because I'm usually looking at the website.
So on the email, right, like screenshots are there, but if you link something, I mean, if the Twitter account's gone and I click on the link, you know, that tweet's gone. It'll show when you put it down on there, like if you have it formatted correctly. But if that tweet disappears, like if I were to click on that like image that has it linked, then the tweet will be deleted. But if you like have the image there linked into it, I mean, that helps a lot as well.
One of the things I'm hoping to do if I can make it through the year is the Posties Awards, where I would basically just capture the best of the year. And so I'm hoping that none of that's gone forever, that I can find it.
Yeah, that's like, we need to bring back the content Emmys. That's what we need to do. But Conscious Caracol is in the chat, so hello, my friend, from the darkest of dark Africa, from the darkest of dark continent. So yeah, you can catch it live. But yeah, so I think you should like invest in screenshotting everything. There's a few accounts that do that. I mean, I wish Forgotten Frog Twitter came back, but of course that was like, to me, an art experiment in the sense of like upending like different screenshots, like, and like attributing fake quotes to people and like putting the watermark on it. Like, it was amazing. I got it. I got it, you know, as an artist. But I know a lot of people, like, he pissed a lot of people off before he got banned. Forgotten Frog Twitter. But no, yeah. So you were talking about the motivation behind it, but it is interesting how I guess one thing that's the problem is will be like the insularity of the discourse around like the sort of select posters that we all gravitate towards, and the sort of inability, like the inability to gatekeep is always like another crucial issue, but also like the ability to stay on message for long enough to actually like say, okay, these are our principles, this is what's happening, and like well, you know, I'm not substituting anything that happened recently, but you know, but yeah, that's always like the sort of, to define like this thing as a movement or a scene is always going to like come up on difficulties. So
yeah,
I mean, Prude, you have thoughts on that? That maybe we'll go back to.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's funny because I was thinking about just a few. I think it's been about a month and a half, but Morgoth's review. I mean, Morgoth's back on Twitter now. Like, he got his old account reinstated after him and Millennial Woes. So it was like a weird time capsule of their Twitter accounts, kind of seeing what the discourse was like 4 or 5 years ago. But he had written the Substack post that was, and I talked about it a little bit a few episodes back, where he was just like, as someone who's not on Twitter, I don't know who half these personalities are. And, you know, as an outsider, half the time it looks like you guys are speaking Chinese to me. And so, and with how fast Twitter moves, right? Like, you have to be on it, or, you know, it's sort of a shit or get off the pot type deal. Like, you know, post your coal or like get out of the space. And so, like, it becomes a problem for those that have been here for a lot longer, like essayists, or even crossing the barrier between platforms. Like the Twitter, the Twitter following, right, is far bigger than my YouTube subscriber count, although that's very much narrowing, thank goodness. But, you know, it's very hard to sort of.
It's going to take years before my YouTube account narrows.
But yeah, so his point, I thought that was interesting, especially now that he's back on Twitter, was that. You know, we have this weird, you know, we're very insular. Like, you have to be on Twitter to sort of know what's going on. It's a catch or you miss it. It is nice, though, because it's been like 3 or 4 times since, what's the word I'm looking for? It's been 3 or 4 times since like Tucker Carlson's brought on some mutuals of mine on Twitter. And at the same time, we've had quite a few accounts in their threads be mentioned by him and his team, and plenty of other people. So I mean, like, this space is like where you need to be, but like, unless you're on Twitter, you know, no one's going to know. Like, you know, it's like the Wojak and the party meme. Like, nobody here knows that I'm like a niche internet micro celebrity or anything like that.
But Dudley, are you an intern for Tucker Carlson?
No, I'm not.
You don't have to lie.
A lot of times these things, like, I'm on Twitter pretty heavily, and like some of these beefs, I'm still just like, who's fighting? What are they talking about? And I was thinking about actually adding a section to the newsletter, the beef of the week section.
Yeah, the mud show, the mud show match of the week. Yeah,
and honestly, like, it's all fun, in my opinion. Like, maybe other people are butthurt over stuff like that when it happens, but like, I'm sitting there with my popcorn anytime anyone's arguing.
That's how I
Yeah,
was
me
with
too.
Sargon and Woes fighting on the timeline again. I was just like, I'm going to make a cup of coffee and just sit and read this.
That was funny, though. That was entertaining. I mean, I think Woes won in the end. I think Sargon still has some work to do, but I don't know. I mean, it's like you're.
There was enough content to make a whole new Murdoch episode. It was a great time.
Oh, like, did they make a new Murdoch?
No, they just Sargon the Afraid. They made one years ago, but yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think I remember that one.
I do have a cringe of the week section, or the cringe corner, as I sometimes call it, where if someone is posting cringe, or usually it's like a mainstream journalist doing an essay about this scene, and doing the same write-up that we've seen 50 times already, and eventually, if I keep at it, I think that all the kind of like misinformation reporter in bio people, or like the people who professionally cover the dissidents or disinformation, misinformation, are gonna start following, and then then I have to start worrying about my OPSEC. But until then, I'm happy to put them in the cringe corner.
Yeah, I think. But then, would you go so as far as to like bomb on people in the scene? I guess like it would be.
I don't I try to keep it pretty lighthearted so far, and I think I would continue. And usually
there's a few people I can think of. Even this week, I could think of a few people in particular. But
I also try to be pretty neutral and impartial in like my approach. I'll be like, oh, so this person and this person are fighting. Isn't that weird or funny? And I
like how you call I am 1776 like the R retarded mad, but you're still very endorsing of it.
Which is that's what that's from?
I don't actually.
That's Benedict Cryptofash coined that.
That's right. Yeah.
In a long takedown of that user is always doing like their Substack is just reviews of like dissident magazines. And I mean that he's pretty snarky, and
oh god, yeah.
But I find him fascinating anyway, so I'm happy to link to him, even if he's being a little bit mean.
He lives to destroy the post left. That's like his biggest.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll, like a good example for me would be Tinksorg. I think he is funny and interesting, and I don't agree with him about everything, but I don't understand some of the kind of vitriol that I see online.
I can understand.
You can.
See why?
Racism is a powerful thing.
Oh, they have grapers. They have cool jacks about Tinksorg now. That's. Oh, it's hilarious. I've seen this.
I feel like humor covers a multitude of sins.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's
if someone's a quote unquote outsider is willing to engage without adopting a posture of just sneering liberal snark, I am happy to engage with that kind of person.
Yeah, I mean, he does post a lot of terrible takes, but it's that. I mean, yeah, I mean, we all post. I mean, I think it depends. To me, it depends because the problem is when you become, as they say in wrestling, a mark for yourself, and you start to take yourself way seriously, and that you sort of get away from the bit, then that becomes a huge problem. I've seen it with my own eyes with many people, not just in our scene, but in general. I mean, even the parameters around our scene, what constitutes, for example, just Twitter? Is it just the Baptists? Is it just the Tradcaths? What about the people that are stuck in Telegram and Odyssey and YouTube and people that we that's a huge problem. And of course, the faction war thing. But that being said, I mean, then you do have people like Tinks. I keep saying Twinksorg. My God, Tinksorg that hover around, and it's for some reason they're oddly compelled to interact, but then also get spurned periodically by the major posters. And there's really no consequences, I feel, to a lot of just negative behavior, because there is people, like, again, without naming names, there are people that are sort of enervating forces from, like, in this thing of ours, that probably don't deserve to be here, that probably just do nothing but, like, subtweet other people and cause drama and all that, like, but then at the end of the day, I mean, that's every ecology, that's every online ecology. Not to say that anonymity is the big problem. Like, here's the thing, without being too much, and I realize that I'm a face, and me and Prude are, like, well, Prude's a semi-face, but, like, it's not that anonymity itself is the problem. It's just that you're going to get both the gifts and the curses along with it. And when there is really the only, like, real motivating force, I would say, is that the real world consequences of, like, people getting doxxed, or, like, people, having their livelihoods gone after, like, there are real world consequences to what we do. But in terms of, like, intrascene conflict, I mean, there really is, like, sort of, it's very hard to police things. Like, me and Millennial Woes were talking about this back in Millennial, right? Like, I don't know, maybe I'm making too much of this, but
Jordan Peterson over here.
No, I mean, not like Jordan Peterson.
Go to your Chinese goon cave, Gio. It's over.
My
oh, that was amazing! The Chinese that was amazing. That was incredible.
I would love to know, like, what his process actually is for hitting send. Like, does he have people that do that for him? Because sometimes it seems very controlled, and other times it seems like
I think Michaela
similarly to Donald Trump. Like, every once in a while, Donald Trump would post something, and you're just like, how did this go through, like, vetting?
I'll drink the trash anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, someone had said that they're running theories that, like, Michaela gives him, like, like a day where he tweets and a day where she controls his Twitter account. And I think
It
of,
could
like,
be
the
it.
terrifying implication that Michaela saw this, like, fetish video and was like, yeah, my dad would agree with that if it's from China.
He's adopting, like, the neocon anti-China thing. But it, like I said in my tweet, I said, like, you can imagine, like, how it would be convincing, because it does have, like, that sterile medical, like, what did I call it at the beginning of this whole
As
thing?
if we weren't psyoped by a bunch of, Chinese pandemic videos and footage of hospital rooms.
But yeah, it's really a goon cave in Britain.
So,
like,
going back to your original point, Gio, like, you were talking about the kind of pros and cons of, I guess, just a community of mostly anons, and how do you punish like, bad actors, I guess, and kind of support people who are doing good, like, creating good stuff. Is that basically what you were saying?
Yeah, more or less. For example, those super chats will really support some fine people here. I've only seen one from Luth Impler, so yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a grand theory on this, other than just that it's the people, like, I would take 10 Tinksorgs over the kind of people who are relentlessly posting, like, threads that I would call, like, thirsty for engagement. That'll be like, did you know that C.S. Lewis had this point of view? And it'll be like 20 tweets about just some Wikipedia page that they copy pasted. That's not a subtweet, by the way, of anyone in particular. But you do see that kind of content of, like, people who are clearly not just having fun. They're trying to turn their anonymous account into some sort of, like, potential future grift machine. And I don't know. I don't know how you stop that, or even if it's worth bothering trying to stop something like that.
Yeah, true.
Well, when I went down to Dallas and I spoke with the new founding guys, like, one of the things that I was kind of surprised by was sort of this, like, startup face forward, face showing culture was just like, well, yeah, we want to talk to anons because these are where the interesting people are. But there's also and the way that he viewed it is like, you have credentialism through credibility. So it doesn't matter that you're an anon or if you post face or physique or whatever. Like, what matters is, like, can other people vouch for you? Have you consistently put out decent work and good work? And can people, say that you're not a bad actor? Like, do you go out of your way and get involved in drama or doxing or things like that? And so, like you and Woes talked about, Gio, like, this space is always permanently semi-permeable. Anyone can enter it, anyone can exit it. there can be bad actors that you don't like that I might be okay with or agree with on certain issues. But because of how that is, it's just like you have to really pick and choose. And it's basically a form of, political and I guess like poster triage. Like, is this person really worth your time? And I think that's going to be the way it goes from here on out, just for the time being. So I think it is sort of a permanent quasi feature, quasi bug in the scene.
I'm pretty skeptical of the argument that there's any correlation whatsoever in like quality of output and whether or not that person's a face lord. In fact, I'm way more highly suspicious of face lords than I am anons, in terms of their like intentions, especially given the stakes in our current culture of what can happen to you when you step out of line and people know who you are.
Well, I don't. I wasn't trying to get across as like anonymity.
No. I was referring to the people who you were talking about, and Jordan Peterson and that kind.
Oh yeah.
The
that I agree grifters. With. Yeah, I mean Jordan Peterson's just one on the list. I mean he's one of the biggest ones, but that's like, but you were saying about anonymity. But then again, I mean, I don't know where I should.
Like my biggest problem is with anyone that will like, especially face forwarding accounts that do interact with the space. And I will try really hard not to start shit here, but it's just like there are 2 or 3 that I know that have written either in the Claremont, the American Mind, or work for some political organization. They're anti-anonymity. And then they'll say things like, well, anyone who's worked in politics for 5 minutes says that like the friend enemy distinction is useless. And I'm like, I've worked in politics for more than 5 minutes. And that's the most brain dead thing I've ever heard. And so like, of course, these are the type of people that want you to go out of their way and to like use your face and name and things like that. And to me, it's just stupid, because all that does is that it poisons any goodwill that you had. And it's a great, for me, it's the automatic litmus test of like, okay, you cannot be trusted ever and don't interact.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess so. I feel like, but then again, like there's just a general, I feel, stagnation because there is no like galvanizing force that like a lot of the insights over time will just become less novel. That's just a natural cycle. And also, like, there's little games that people play where they try to like out edge post each other. My friend Piff had this one tweet recently where it's like 2 like gripers arguing with each other, and it's like, no, I want to exterminate this race. No, I want to exterminate this race harder. And it's like nothing happens. I don't know why I find that so funny, but I find a lot of like gratuitous things in the scene pretty funny. But my point being is that I feel like we have to ground ourselves in the fact that the way that our number one tactic has always been like cultural diffusion. It hasn't been the real world political action has yet been able to lead to fruits and has led to a lot of bad things because we don't have like the protection of even like the biggest conservative institutions. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when we talk about like those big conservative TM type of things, it's like they live a world away from us, from the frogs. And ideally, you would have a situation like the political left where they nurture and protect and give like cover to their radicals and place them into funding pipelines and institutions. But like people that like are at Heritage or people are at like, I don't know, Prude, what's the big like conservative think tank?
Besides the Heritage Foundation. Oh, besides Heritage.
Cato.
Well, Cato's more. They're all like
who's the big Republican super PACs? What are they called?
I mean, there's so many. I mean, you have like the Club for Growth and anything that's associated with like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is just awful. But the Club for Growth is probably by far the worst establishment GOP. And the big thing about this, though, and I wrote this, and I'm this Substack called, so you want to talk to frogs. And it was more of a like to all Face Lord mutuals, this is for you. And it was more or less saying like, I highlight, I think what is one of the more obvious reasons is like they want to take your ideas and water them down so they can get money. Like I want their jobs so we can have base world. They want our takes and our ideas so they can keep the grift machine going and let, us go on that decline, maybe 1 degree less gradual, so that's what we're having to deal with, I think, in the scene a lot.
Yeah, exactly. In media, it's no different, but Dudley, you could speak to that more, I guess.
Oh, it's a tough one. I don't have a ton of exposure to like conservative ink at all. It was never my career. I made a conscious decision to kind of operate politically incognito in like mainstream media world, knowing that the moment anyone caught wind of like any unorthodox opinion, that like I didn't want to get ghettoized in like Fox News world or something like that.
Yeah.
So to me, like this new scene is so exciting because it's an outlet for people who are just disgusted with the mainstream and I want to have fun like critiquing it and making their own stuff. And I don't know, I feel like we should do what we can to like maintain the kind of like punk ethos if there is one. And the way it would be great if the like Palmer Luckies of the world wanted to just like drop some cash on people here and there. But as far as like building established institutional pathways for frog-minded young people to
Sensitive
develop
young man.
to develop careers, I just don't know if that's going to lead to anything good.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to black pill, but that is, I tend to agree with you. But, um, yeah. But so do you want to move on to the Ricky Vaughn stuff or Prude? I don't know.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that I like about this space and this scene is that you do have people that will put the work in and do a viral thread, like Poast did Myth Pilot, and it got Tucker Carlson's attention like a day later after that thread got 1 million views. It had a direct reply from Elon Musk. And so like I would take 1 million like Myth Pilots, and rather than, Wikipedia or incessant intra-Christian, intra-Nietzschean infighting. But that's just par for the course of how Twitter is. And one of the things I like about what you do, Dudley, is that you do highlight where the discourse is going, and most of the time the people you highlight are getting noticed, and that's the highlight I like of the space more so than because everyone's got it. Like everyone hawks a book, everyone hawks a grift, but then there are some people that are like, no, you really should be putting your money towards things that have much longer and harder implications on societies, like the First Amendment, free speech with the Doug Mackey case. And I mean, as someone who catalogs this, Dudley, I was curious as to what is the best way in terms of like, because the concern I had when Gio and I were talking about this before you went on was, in the future, everyone can have 15 minutes of their own psyop of their own Coney 2012. And,
Yeah.
and instead, you can have people like Paulos like actually direct it towards attention. And now millions of people who watch Tucker Carlson are really aware of the Ricky Vaughn, Douglas Mackey trial. And so as someone who, curates this and puts this out regularly, in your point of view, like what is the best way to make use of Twitter that doesn't become, slacktivism?
I tend to believe that Yarvin is right on his acorns theory. You guys familiar with this?
Yes.
Yeah. But for those who don't know,
yeah, like just this idea that culture is this leviathan that takes a long time to shift, and you need to be instead of trying to get like quick wins, you need to be cultivating over many years, potentially decades, the like deep root culture as an alternative, and then like eventually what we're trying to beat just sort of withers away. And I tend to agree. I hear what you're saying about just needing to win on, like, I guess immigration or free speech or some stuff like that. Like I get the immediacy and importance of that. Um, but I also like, I tend to think of it as, like on the top of the ocean when the waves are kind of crashing back and forth versus at the bottom of the ocean when things are still. Like right now, we're going to see this free speech stuff. And I'm not a judicial scholar or anything like that, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But I tend to think like relentlessly making it fun and cool to to be a part of this scene is more important than playing politics. And again, like I'm not too like I think grassroots political involvement is great and important, and like building relationships with like building your Mannerbund or whatever in your local areas is great. But I don't know if like Twitter is really where that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest thing that I kind of have this like debate back and forth with myself, because I wrote sort of a rejoinder, or not. Well, it wasn't really. It was just expressing my thoughts on Morgoth's Twitter, essay that he wrote, and I said, on one hand, like I get the concern, like if you're not in on the in jokes, and I even said it in that post. If I don't know like an old Twitter drama or like an older account that's been reinstated, I have to rely on Gio to sort of be my old man on the mountain to tell me what knowledge I've missed out on, because
Zarathustra going up back the
yeah, basically, right. And so because I joined Twitter in 2020, because I had moved and I had nothing to do, and I was like, well, I was always in polite liberal company asking for people asking me for conservative opinions, so like why not try and make something of myself? And I've been blessed with some success, but like Twitter is great, I think, when you can get people's eyes and ears focused on like really particular issues. But I think that also the best thing that can be done, I think, in the use of Twitter, especially in this scene, is like we said earlier, like I'm very excited to read Peachy Keenan's book, because if it's something that is accessible to regular people, not to say that populism's the way forward. That's not what I'm getting at. But like, if you can tell people to live lives that is subverting the ever present pause that we have to deal with, like that's a good thing. But I think creating lengthy threads about why someone's like a suit or a jack off may not be the best use of your time. So I just think that Twitter always comes with this like cost benefit analysis. I think people need to run. It's like, well, how much of an impact am I having, or what am I promoting my work that's actually doing some good for people, or am I just shit posting? And there is value in shit posting, but it's a debate I see that will forever be raged in posters' minds.
Yeah, I feel like, see, now I'm consciously aware, because tonight at 7, I'm going to be with Nightmare Vision again on Restoring Order, Patrick Casey, to talk about the Mackey trial. But I don't know, maybe I should save my take. But really, I feel like the reason that there is such a galvanization around this issue is because it's literally like, okay, a lot of people got their start by getting the mutual from Ricky Vaughn. Like, he was one of my first big mutuals. And a lot of people, he nurtured the scene. And he generally cared about what he was doing. And the fact that they are persecuting him, and the way that the trial went down, and the way that they basically put it on ice during the Trump years, only to then like wait till the Biden like DOJ ascended. And it's like really just hideously disgusting the way that they're going after him legally by like kicking out like key witnesses and all that, or like, I believe there was one case, don't quote me on it, of jury intimidation or like witness intimidation. I don't know, Prude, maybe.
Yeah, no, some SPLC freelance writer who's associated with them went out of their way to threaten to more or less make public private emails that George Hawley, who's a well-known professor, I think, at the University of Alabama, and he's written books on like right-wing critics of American conservatism and like making sense of like who Richard Spencer was and his ideology at the time of like 2018. And I mean, he knows Paul Gottfried rather well. And I mean, like, he's kind of he's got his own thing going on, but he's kind of in this space. But yeah, they threatened to like publish it and like threaten his job. And so Ricky Vaughn's defense had to like ask for more time because George Hawley pulled out.
Oh my God. See, that's what I mean. Like, you can't really have a fair trial when you have this like Antifa activist network that just, you know what I mean? That's going to like dox and harass people. Like, apparently they had a Fed in one of his group chats. That's another big thing, you know? So, there's no justice. But the point being is that the reason I feel like we're rallied around is because Ricky Vaughn was one of our own, and because he was a prolific voice, and because they're like literally going after him for tweets. You know, I mean, okay, yeah, you could say it was more than that, whatever. But, you know, it's a landmark case for a reason. And living in a country that doesn't have the same like free speech protections as America, I mean, this is a huge deal. So, you know. But oh, are you still there, boys?
I'm here.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe
I was going to ask if you've applied for your meme making license yet.
Maybe we'll have to.
Has that come to Canada? Like, what crackdowns are going to come your way, Gio?
Well, they have the Canadian content thing. The bill was at C18, C13. I forget. But they wanted to like regulate even like streamers. That's like, yeah, I'm not joking. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't pass, but you never know. I mean, it's like the Canadian content thing is very weird because they're like, oh, you have to have a certain percentage, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know, maybe I'll have to like talk about Leaf issues just to keep up my like my like Canadian content percentage. Maybe I'll have to have Dark Horse on, and I'll have to have well, actually, yeah, I'll probably have Black Horse on, and Kevin Michael Grace. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, what do you have any thoughts, Dudley, on the Ricky Vaughn case?
Not really. I haven't kept too much abreast of it. I don't know the nuts and bolts, so I'm just gonna not comment.
Yeah. But
just to wait 4 years until like Trump's out of office to then go after him. I mean, this is the example of what's going to come for tweets. And I mean, we've seen this countless times before, even with like shit libs or news broadcasters, where things that people said 10, 15 years ago, because Twitter's been around that long now, comes back to haunt them. And I mean, especially now, if you're a prolific, person in Frog Twitter and you get doxxed, like you have your entire tweet history now that you have to deal with, group chats that potentially can be leaked. And so I think on the back of everyone's head, right, this is why anonymity is so important, is because there is that sort of Damocles on your head that at any point in time it will come down and people will come after you. Like I always check, for instance, people that like when I get notifications of like who subscribes to Substack or whatever, because a lot of people just use their like actual emails and stuff. And so like I checked their names, and one of them was like the first thing I did when I like Googled his name was that he was associated with Antifa, and I was like, I removed him from the list, and I put him on a block list, and I was like, we're not having this. So it does come for people. And
man, I should do that. I don't know.
Worth your time. And I mean, these are the things that people have to really look out for. And, that's why we can't throw away anonymity under any circumstance whatsoever. And Doug Mackey making memes in support of Trump, or telling Hillary supporters to like go text their vote, when you had like Christy Wong and other shit libs doing the same for Trump supporters. Like it's an illustration of everything that sort of like the right space talks about, which is anarcho-tyranny. Like, and face lords will make fun of it, where it's like, oh, dissident Twitter accounts are like, they lie to you, they hate you, and they want you dead. It's like, well, yeah, we have to keep repeating these things because you people keep ignoring it, and here we are. So but this is also the space where all the more interesting thoughts are coming out, where people are publishing translations of Ernst Jünger and countless other thinkers and scholars. I mean, for all drama aside, like people like Carlsbad, like translating works of like Haller and others is like good for those that want to understand like the more theory or historical aspects to it. So I mean, this little space, this little thing of ours, as people like to say, I think can't be understated, because it's not like the Usenet days or having a mailing list back then, where if you had like 100 people on your mailing list, you were the top guy. Nowadays, anyone like a simple, anime PFP account can like create, a term or a discursive sort of kill shot that changes everything. So it's hard to put like a dollar or even a sentimental or political, value to this little space.
I'm with Bennett, Bennett's Phylactery. You guys know him?
Yep.
He said one time, like, basically it's a matter of time, and that if you post spicy content, you need to make your peace with the idea that someone could very well expose you. And I don't have to worry too much, because I don't actually post spicy takes. I'm posting other people's spicy takes. And I've kind of carved out a niche in my career where I don't have as much of a public facing role as I used to. So I think I could survive a dox if it came my way. But yeah, I mean, I just, for me, it's like, I thought about using one of those like voice disguiser things that some anons use, and like, it's much more likely that I would just accidentally post my face like on Twitter, or or like my real name or something like that, than for someone to do some like hacker shit on me.
Yeah, but then again, you never know. Like, it's like these people are crazy though. Like, they'll go after you for different reasons, but
I mean, you would know that, especially. You had some Antifa like Canadian account, like basically just live and breathe everything that you tweeted and did online for like
that was
6
funny.
months.
Yeah, before he got nuked. So that was pretty fun. But nothing, I don't know. But then again, I guess if you're a face, it's kind of different. Like, what are they gonna do? Like, I don't know. They just but yeah, I feel like there has to be a sense of like, you know, you have to create things that are anti-fragile, even if you do get doxxed. Like, I ask people this often, like, could you survive a dox if you're like engaging? And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, at the back of your mind, you have to like realize that, yeah, there's always that possibility that, there's going to be like something, you know what I mean? There's going to be like someone that'll suss you out, or like if you piss off someone hard enough, then, um, it's yeah, but anyways, so I guess let's go to like this week's Newright Post. It's called what's it called here? Let's pull it up.
The extinction level vibe shift.
Extinction level vibe shift. Oh man.
Which is I'll confess, pegging off of just Loki's it's not a bailout, it's a vibe recalibration tweet.
Yeah, so I guess the headline is for some reason there's like this, I don't know, what are they? Like this podcast that has these like women on.
Yeah.
Like I keep seeing these. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing when you actually, so I'm like, my world is more in the like troposphere, so like I actually know some folks from that scene, and like it's amazing when you like realize how popular some of these like normie podcasts are. And when I say normie podcasts, I'm referring to like the second and third tier, like Joe Rogan type shows, or this whatever show is. Like, you'll find out that they have 20 times the audience of like your favorite niche like music podcast or something like that. And no institutional backing. It's just this guy figured out that he could get like OnlyFans thoughts to and ask them like somewhat difficult questions, and then post their cringe responses. And I forget who said it, but there was somebody who said recently that like basically this guy's such a fucker for getting a bunch of women and like embarrassing them when they respond just like how a normal person would who hasn't had time to prepare to answer questions. But then at the same time, like the image that I ran with the newsletter was them all drinking water out of these cups. They're drinking that destroy civilization juice because that's kind of the other side of it.
Yeah, I find it absolutely amazing that some guy with, I mean, he joined Twitter in 2020 for himself, but I mean, to have your just divorced car as your like banner profile picture be this guy that just lets these women talk for 4 hours about a 2-year situationship with like a 6'8" Chad, you know, and they apparently talk every Sunday and Tuesday. And I would not have known for these people if it weren't for this space talking about, you know, or making, you know, light of the guy that was saying the obvious that if you are sleeping with like a trans woman or whatever, you're a homosexual. And it's just like, this is what we have to deal with. And every thumbnail is just the epitome of like Twitter thoughterry that, yeah, like you said, destroy civilization juice. They drink it all up.
Oh God. What was that one about the recent one that was like, there are so many of them. Like, I don't know why this podcast exists or why people give it attention. Like, okay, there was the one that made the woman look bad, like just, you know, trying to explain dating or whatever. Because again, like everything's becoming a dating site now. So it's like, but there was that one where,
oh God, they brought Michael Knowles on.
Yeah, the Michael Knowles one. Yeah, that was. But then there was this antinatalist one. What was it? Like this woman was explaining like, or no, was it?
Is it the one where she's talking about how she like takes advantage of men and like tries to break their hearts and stuff?
There was that one, and then there was another one about like where these like lib women were going, oh, she's actually right about what was it? It's yeah, again, like the ephemera of it is so terrible.
You know, there was a journalist who coined this term probably more than a decade ago now, called troll gaze, which was like a reference to music that was made specifically to like generate internet attention. Because like if you can get the bloggers writing about something for being like weird or offensive, you're just gonna accelerate the growth of your brand or whatever. And I think this applies to everything now, just like, and it's part of what I think it's a huge factor in the Great Awakening thing, where you would have media companies explicitly trying to fuck with readers and piss them off and produce the most like incendiary headlines possible in order to get, you know, the kind of like quote unquote clickbait reaction from people. And I that's what this podcast looks like to me, is like he realized that he could showcase beautiful women having bad ideas, and all the boomers all the way down to the zoomers of the world on the right or even centrists would comment and talk about how it was the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, Maura Johnston was right when she coined that phrase. I mean, almost 1 billion total views since the channel's been around. And yeah, I mean, this is sort of the Joe Rogan show, but with like young women talking about dating. Because like they've had all sorts of like discussions as of late over trad wives, and I think they had some Daily Wire girl come on, and then you have Michael Knowles, and every thumbnail is like something that I would expect my grandfather to click on because there's an attractive woman in a bikini on it. And I just, yeah, there's not much else to really say there other than like, this is the perfectly crafted slop for women to talk about the most degenerate shit. Like, this is the women talking that should have won the Oscars for its impact on society, not the other woman talking movie.
Yeah.
We love our women, don't we, folks?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
We love our femoids, don't we?
But why do you think like basically the scene has devolved into like talking about dating and the F rate and hypergamy? It's like this never ending constant like thing that, you know what I mean? Like it's
because
I don't
everyone's
know.
miserable.
Yeah.
Because we now have a social, like an agreed upon social arrangement where people spend the entirety of their 20s and most of their 30s and beyond humiliating themselves and degrading themselves on both sides, and it's making people insane and miserable. And so I think that it's like an endless well to draw from, because every single one of these women has a Tinder date that night of, with some Chad who will probably mistreat them in some way, even if they're giving them what they want, and vice versa. So yeah,
like you said.
I just think that like there's too many people who feel like something is wrong with this but can't articulate it, including all these people on the podcast, that were like it's not going to go out of style anytime soon for that to be the subject matter.
Well, yeah, and like we just were talking about with the show, you're right. Like these people will go back and they'll contribute to the birth control to SSRI pipeline. And I mean, for even people in this sphere, everyone's talking about culture and relationships. And I wrote about this a while back, and I had said I think that the sudden shift back to dating, aesthetics, culture, and self worth is that politics can seem rather demoralizing and if outright boring if your own life is in a rut. Despite the Dostoevsky style ghost or husk of a man that remains today of Jordan B. Peterson, he once captivated millions with a simple message of self improvement. And everyone sort of agrees that the lifestyle image that's being put out on either in that whatever podcast or what we see constantly on Twitter is nothing but a rehashed focus of debauchery and polycules and blue hairs. Like the longhouse is still with us, and people want an alternative, view out of it. And so I think we're stuck dealing with people constantly going back to ask that question about what can they do to not be as miserable. And some people who are like really big into politics will tell you that this is like a regression, or that this is a bad thing because like we're not focused on the movement or the message or whatever. And to me, that just feels like someone is clanking the cup around on the grift machine. But people really do want the, like if someone had gone out of their way and said, we're going to stop all this like bullshit with like crazy discussions over, body counts or what kind of pills are the best thing to take, probably things would be a lot different. But we have all just sort of agreed on this general malaise that the current situation is drab, it's ugly, and people have basically prostituted themselves physically and intellectually for a little bit of bread, and it's not great. And I think that's why people keep going back to culture and dating and the fuck rate.
But that's what I mean. Like there's a difference between like an actually productive discussion on these things, but then like the never ending like cycle of it. It's like it's always, look at this stupid woman on a podcast, and like look at this it's just like it's
But that's easy clicks. That's the troll gaze for right wing
yeah.
Twitter, right? It's like, look at this femoid.
Yeah, look at this femoid having a
I mean, that was literally the title of the last Paul Joseph Watson video. It was called Femoids.
Yeah.
Like we've reached a new low.
Oh my god. So apparently so yeah, like I'm reading right now the Poast extinction level vibe shift. So welcome to NPR, where public blah, blah, blah. Lomez saying this is the most blatant example of longhousing I've ever seen. An unreal video using the rhetoric of harm reduction and communal cohesion. The DEI den mother passively aggressively berates her male counterpoint. What was that about? From Aaron Sabarum. What is this about that Lomez was commenting on?
That was the Stanford law school inviting like a GOP. I don't know if he was like a lawyer or a politician or something. Some NormieCon basically, and Judge Duncan, and I guess there were just a bunch of protesters. The blue hair crowd came and started shouting it down.
Oh, I see.
And she came out and basically sided with the protesters and saying like, this is important that we don't cause harm. There's a lot more to it than that, but yeah, I liked Lomez's framing of it. I have to watch myself because there are certain Twitter personalities that would just be in the post every single week if I wasn't nervous about people being overloaded by it, but he's certainly one of them. But just the longhousing framing is interesting to me, and I try not to like provide too much commentary of my own on these things. Like they're quick hits. It's like one or two sentences on every story, and I let the other folks speak for themselves. The people that I'm linking to. But him calling it a struggle session, I think is spot on. Like we're seeing this, and this has been the case for years now. And I think if anything, people are starting to show a little bit of weariness to it.
Yeah. What was the other big story of the week? Things have been. What did we not talk about? Yeah.
Well, obviously the Silicon Valley Bank thing was a big deal. I linked to that because allegedly the guy who like kickstarted or the big snowball of everyone trying to get their money out is like sort of adjacent to this scene. Bern Hobart and his wife Pamela are kind of somewhat in this world.
Yeah, what happened with that? I heard it was nothing happening. Like they bailed them out, the government, or
you mean like what's the latest?
Yeah, the latest in the bank situation in Silicon Valley.
I haven't checked today. According to my ditto head mom, they're going to wait until Friday to announce, like Friday night before they announce, so that no one can do anything over the weekend. My mom's locked in on Facebook MAGA mom content all day.
Oh my god,
where I get ditto my news from.
Do you guys know Chicks on the Right?
Yes.
Oh, I think I've heard of them.
So that's an example of like what I was talking about earlier, where you'll see this, like entity that you've never seen before and have no interest in, and then you'll find out that they have like 20 million paying like subscribers or viewers, and like a robust merchandise operation where they're selling like t-shirts and hats and stuff. And Chicks on the Right is one of those for me. Like when I found out my mom was like a daily viewer of their show, and I just like looked into it a little bit, I was like, okay, this is where all the money's really going.
Because they're like Gen X, like, moms that are basically enjoying, giving content on it. Because like that, the people on that show, they're like, they could be my mother, and here they are, talking to people that are running for president and going to CPAC and making millions of dollars a month.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking earlier about what would have to change for like the kind of E-right dissident sphere to get that kind of like exposure or funding. And I wonder if it's just honestly time, like maybe another decade, because all the like younger Zoomers, like how old is what's the cutoff for like the youngest Zoomers? How old are they right now?
Let's find out.
I think like what, 17?
Okay.
Yeah, probably. Well, some say, I don't know, like their oldest were what, 96, so they're in their like mid 20s now.
So when I was that age, like those kinds of people would be like putting on their bow ties and ready to go intern at the Mises Institute or whatever, and excited about Ron Paul. It makes me wonder, like, today's 17-year-old they have to be more edgy than that. They have to be more aware of like this dissident world, and like it makes me wonder, is it just going to take another decade or so to you know, for those funding channels to kind of open up, and for the exposure to open up for those kinds of views?
Well, it's kind of Nightmare Vision's point that he's made several times on Pat Casey's show, where like once you sort of quote unquote have the day of the pillow where a lot of the boomer money is dried up, you know, there's going to be an opportunity for the younger people to step in. I mean, the situation will most likely be more like dire because of, say, demographics or policy, but you know, you're not going to be chained to a certain set of like truths that the boomers have all been politically socializing the country with for like the last 70 years, which I think is going to be a very good thing going forward. But yeah, I mean, like people my age got excited about like the Ron Paul revolution in 2012, and now today's kids are probably watching like little Dark Age edits and, you know, where the spinny wheel goes, you know. I'm optimistic for what little amount of base Zoomers there are in this wave of, you know, Politico writing that, you know, 30% of Gen Z will be identifying as LGBTQ plus, that they're going to be like one of the most important voting blocks in the future. I just know that there's some Zoomer perm out there that's getting ready to just say that this is enough. I'm going to pilot the helicopter. None of this business.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. Shit's going to get weird and wild and woolly, because there's just so much social dysfunction. And with every successive generation that we're moving along this path, you have more divorce, more broken families, more people just trying to find something that will provide meaning and direction in their lives. And also, every successive generation is going to have less money to distract themselves with.
Yeah,
avoiding like meaning making. So like, you know, the Peachy Keenan thing of being a domestic extremist, like, and the whole trad wife thing, and a lot of that is cynical grifting. But I do think that there's clearly a deep yearning for some kind of like way of living and making meaning that stands against the mainstream modernity, and it's going to be the base Zoomers that like pioneer that.
But then I don't know. I mean, the Zoomers are the ones that cost the red wave, apparently, back last year? Yeah, it's last year already. So I mean, I'm skeptical of like, there was like the base boomer thesis, but then to push back on that, I mean, I think that the ones that will be right wing among the Zoomers will definitely be more extreme just by necessity, but they'll be so overcrowded by their enemies that I don't know. I think like a lot of the big problem is that millennials just resign themselves. Like our generation's just like turned their heads, and I don't know. We have different coping mechanisms for why we're like the failure to launch generation. But then again, I don't know. Maybe things will be different when the boomers leave their mortal coil, and I'm actually quite terrified of like the post-boomer world, to tell you the truth. I think Nightmare Vision's correct in that. When they leave, there will be opportunities, but also you won't have the same structure in society that we do. And I think like as much as we rag on the boomers, it kind of will be terrifying when they leave, because of what they're going to leave behind is a bunch of children that they failed to educate properly and how to run a civilization. So in a way they screwed us over, but in a way that we sort of like screwed ourselves over. You're who said it here in the chat? Yeah, Mr. Patchouli, you're right. The stats are pretty bad. So
I mean, baby boomers are really the main reason why Republicans keep getting elected, them and Gen X conservatives. And so things keep getting more dire as more and more of them die off, either due to old age or the opioid crisis, or just like general shit quality of health and food. And like what's going to be left are going to be a lot of people that have been born after 2008 that are like ready to realize that the whole system's been taken underneath their feet. Like, I don't think it'll be the same level of maybe like millennial entitlements that you saw out of like a lot of millennial liberals, where like, you know, this is the world that you took from us, like, you know, screw the boomers, XYZ.
Yeah.
I think it will be much more of a, the stakes are very high and I don't have money to mess around. Like my back really is against the wall. And, and even with all aspects of technology too, I mean, like, boomers or Gen X or even us didn't really have to deal with jobs or education that would be like AI assisted or things like that. And so there's sort of this feeling of trying to run against the clock before you're automated out or that you have no exit. And the big thing that a lot of these spaces have is that like whether you're on YouTube or you run a Substack or you run a show or you grift anything, and some are genuine grifts, others are like you put out good work. Is that for us, our patronage network is primarily still very middle class. Like I have no teal bucks, I have no high end Silicon Valley venture capitalist giving me money, and I probably wouldn't want that to some degree, but the patronage question is always like really the big huge one, and so time will only tell if, say, some of these projects like I Am 1776 wanting to do like an arts foundation will bank any success. But I mean, if you can use the power of fandom like Yarvin did to help get, certain projects funded, like Delicious Tacos' film thing, then I mean, more power to you. I guess that clout can buy things.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot nested into what you just said. I think you guys know this guy, the Last Pirate.
Yes.
He has this thing, Bob Dunlap, who, and it's just like a picture of an old boomer like fixing guns. He says America used to crank out fat boomers with glasses, coincidentally all named Bob Dunlap, who could unfuck any piece of machinery. And the kind of like idea behind that tweet is that we have this precious resource of old nerds who basically keep the lights on in the infrastructure, and when those people are gone, we're gonna have like we're gonna start to have serious like third worldification of our like critical systems. And that I do worry about. I'm optimistic about the culture moving in a favorable direction, but just the kind of like electrical grid and stuff like that, I that is a concern of mine.
Well, that Jackson, Mississippi thing came to mind because I don't know who tweeted it, but it was like, how everyone makes fun of like someone says that, Black Lives Matter, and it shows like a crowd of white people profile pictures like of dudes in their trucks. And it's just like, the people that fix the Jackson, Mississippi water system are those people. And the more that you bear them from doing anything or they die off, like, yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. The Last Pirate's point, because they were doing an article about a semiconductor prefabrication plant here in the United States. And one of the like consulting companies for them was just like, we do not have the manpower or the brain power to like build them our own. And we have to rely on, what limited resources we have, which are all aging and dying. And like, it's a terrifying thing to think about because access to that technical education is being wasted through various DEI initiatives. And better yet, the guys that are, still in there are probably well past retirement age. Like I have a friend that works for Raytheon in Tucson, and he's just like, there are people who are well past retirement age working here back when like Raytheon acquired like the last bit of Howard Hughes's subsidiaries back in like the 80s and 90s.
No.
So yeah, I mean, things are going to get terribly close to South African levels of, brownouts and things like that, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. I mean, the DEI thing is real, but I also think it's like a little bit of cope. I think we've made it just extremely unattractive to be a Bob Dunlap. We, like, my generation was basically raised like, you want to be Mark Zuckerberg, and obviously there's only room in the world for a few of those people. And even, I mean, we're seeing now just this glut of like the PMC office drone like email job people. That's all going to go away, I think. And like, especially with AI and automation, I would never encourage my kids to like try to follow me in my line of work. I've been doing remodeling on my house lately, and my contractor basically lives like a king. He has so much demand for his services, and he's basically like, I mean, he's more than a handyman. He's a building contractor. He could build a house from the ground up, but he's making upwards of $1 million a year. That's in an American mega city, but I would highly advise today's sensitive young men to consider that.
Yeah, I mean, the skill glow would be interesting, and the fact that like there will be like demographic change is obviously real, and I feel like we keep coming up against. I feel like a lot of like going back to the women talk thing, like do you know of Vitruvian Gamer on Twitter? Dudley?
What gamer?
Vitruvian.
No.
Incel Gamer. Well, he had a lot of great takes about like you can't have a space where you have like people. I'm trying to make a grand point here. It's kind of contentious, but like you can't have a space where you have people that are like constantly like basically puas going against incels. Like there's a huge incel contingent in the E-right. I mean, people know which side I lean towards more, obviously. And you like that's just two groups you're never gonna have like the sort of like true cell like anime, like give me a romance kind of like my favorite anime, or give me inceldom for life. And then you also have like increase the fuck rate. So you can't have those two groups. But I feel like a lot of impetus for like culture war issues is the fact that there's sort of like a grander fatalism towards demographics, economic uncertainties, the ability to like not really do anything about these issues. So what are you going to talk about? Oh, you're going to talk about dating. Oh, you're going to talk about the fuck rate. Oh, you're going to talk about X, Y, and Z culture war issue that is safe for rallying the troops around, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's what a huge impetus of like why things have become so like why the TL has become a coal mine is like just the latest dunks, the latest like infighting, the latest like culture war ephemera of like, and the fact that we can't like really talk about these grand issues because we don't like, because by talking about them, it's a form of insanity because we keep doing, insanity is doing things over and over again, expecting a different outcome. And so I feel like the take industry is most affected because of that, because of this sense of powerlessness at these other issues that people would talk about. But like in 2016, we felt like, yeah, we were going to actually vote someone in that's going to do something about it. But we know that that didn't happen. Like the whole like, why are we posting? Because we know that there's going to be a guy that's going to build the wall. And it's going to kick him out and build it 10 feet higher. And it's like that didn't go anywhere, I feel. And so now what are we left with? We're left with some e-thought on a podcast having a dumb take about like why such and such relationship doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know what I mean? Like there's a huge world of difference between build the wall 10 feet higher and that. So maybe I'm just too pessimistic. Maybe because I don't know. Maybe I fall in the incel camp. Maybe that's the problem. Man, where am I going with this? You know what I mean? Like there's a sign of general exhaustion. And I feel like there's not an easy way around that. Right. So
it's good though that people are exhausted in that way. I mean, this stuff wouldn't be talked about at all if that exhaustion wasn't there. I mean, this isn't
true.
Like I have another anecdote that's semi-related. It's not related to sex or gender, but there's this mini documentary on the New Yorker. I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically about this neighborhood in Brooklyn, and it's like these 5 old, elderly Guidos who grew up there, and they're talking about how fun the neighborhood was when they were kids and how everyone knew each other, and all they did all day long was play stickball or whatever in the street. And, all the old ladies were just watching like hawks. And if there was a stranger, it was like, everyone knew there was a stranger on the block and they were watching them. And so you had just like total safety in a highly dense urban environment, where with like strong social cohesion, where every kid knows every other kid and their parents. And any parent can like yell at someone else's kid to like get off the shed. and expect the kid to, adopt a position of like deference to their authority. And then it like cuts to the modern day and just how it's a bunch of yuppies. And these 5 old Italian guys, like, I don't know how edited this was, but basically they were just like, yeah, I don't know what happened. Things changed. And it talks a little bit about like how for a while things were very violent and the stores closed all the stores closed down. They had to board up all the windows and da, 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 da. And it's like anyone who's lived in New York for even a small amount of time can like sort of knows the story. And I mean, you could see this replicated across American cities at least. And at no point does anyone ask, like, well, what actually happened? Like, what policies were in effect that led to this outcome where property values just plummet to nothing, and then eventually all the once violence subsides, all the properties get bought up by like powerful investment companies and then sold to yuppies, and then now your local deli is a Starbucks or whatever.
Oh my God.
And like there's this documentary has this like pervading sense of like melancholy and nostalgia for a world that has just been completely obliterated. And like, I don't want to get into specifics of what the problems actually are, like we all know, but like just the idea that you can make a documentary like that and not explore at all like how that happened is becoming increasingly untenable. People want, like, especially young people are looking at stuff like that, and they recognize that they were essentially robbed of having a sustainable, humble lifestyle where they're surrounded by people they trust and enjoy being with, and environments are functional, and just like and there's such a deep resentment, I think, and maybe people can't articulate it right now, but that's changing.
Well, it's a lot like there's been almost 2.5 maybe generations of people that have had substantial events happen in their childhood or their youth that sort of robbed them of that innocence. I mean, you talk about those old guys now dealing with like gentrification and the yuppies and what is now modern New York City to some extent as well. And we've talked about this too on the show before, where we've had there's all these memes about like the world you grew up in doesn't exist, or my favorite is like the little kid is the Doge with like the propeller hat and he's standing in front of the Twin Towers and he goes, I can't wait to grow up in a decade of economic prosperity and optimism. And then you of course have 2008, which we've never recovered from. We've only put a low interest rate salve on it, and now we've got what feels like a pending recession that's going to wipe out a lot of people. So you got 2 big sads back to back, plus 9/11, plus this war, and the uneasy threat. Yeah, plus all the cultural stuff too. We're like, we thought we had to strike back with Trump, and then there's a lot of political people that are very black-pilled into a sense of learned helplessness. It's like, oh, you can't just have all this great energy because it'll get slaughtered inside the bureaucracy and the state. And I do think that plays a large role why people do talk about like, well, what is within my grasp? Like, getting fit, picking up women, being self-sustainable. That's just the way that it is. I think in a lot of ways, sometimes it needs to be as edgy as a bowling ball, and maybe having a smoother, rounded, edge maybe to help people realize that, like, we've been through a lot of shit before, and providing people maybe with some meaningful context as to how to manage through the shit again. I think there is a need for that in the space.
I have a controversial take. Hating women to an intense degree, but not in like an incel way, but like just like a sort of pickup artist, like women are dumb, is basically like a safe edgy of the online right, in my opinion. It's like people will do that to like draw attention away from demographics and political issues and creating things. It's like that's my opinion. And I think that really separates who is actually right wing and who isn't. So it's not just it's not just me being a woman respecter. Okay, I'm just saying that. I know you guys are snickering at me right now.
Sorry, I don't know if I understand your point. You're saying paying women for sex?
No, I said like hating women is like safe.
Hating
edgy.
women.
Yeah, is paying women for sex safe edgy?
I thought you said paying women, not hating women. So
paying
what's
women
your point
is
about?
safe. That is really safe edgy. That's like being an ironic pay pig.
It is if you're a certain Reason magazine contributor.
No, listen. Okay, there's different ways to hate women. Okay, like, why am I even saying this? This is terrible. Someone's gonna voice
chat. Can you please clip that?
There's
clip that, Jamie. I want that played every time we're on air.
Oh man, there's sort of like a poetic incel way of like the way that like Enzo does. I keep bringing up Enzo every stream. But then there's also like the sort of like pickup artistry aspect that is sort of like a way of distracting yourself from like other crucial issues. I feel like if you hate women hard enough and long enough, then you're just going to like go back. Like this is what people were so controversial. Like when I said this, I think last week, there's a point where you sort of like meme yourself back to liberalism in that you sort of don't particularly mind the like post-sexual revolution. What did Baudrillard call it? After the orgy culture. And so then you just basically meme yourself into like being like a coon-brain lib when it comes to like the greater social gestalt. But then of course, like I realized the downfall of like the wholesome chungus trad. Like I want my heckin' wholesome, I'm the guy that stepped up because my single mother is a trad wife now. So it's like, I'm the guy that stepped. Like I understand that argument, but then there's also like the other extreme of like I'm totally fine with the sexual revolution as long as I get to like have a notch on my belt. You know what I mean? It's like but then there's my other I want to talk about my childhood thing too, but I guess like I have to get that out of the way. I don't know what you guys think about that, but my other controversial take was the tweet that I deleted because I was worried that irony cells were going to look at it, which was that actually, in terms of material conditions, in terms of culture, in terms of everything, really, if you're a millennial or a Gen Xer, then it's true. Your childhood was probably better than now. But then the immediate retort was that, well, my childhood was crap because my parents, like, whatever. I agree with that, but I wasn't talking about the individual histories. I was talking about the greater history of like what you guys were talking about. That yes, in fact, it's true, even if it comes off as like cringe or whatever, is that your childhood probably was better than what life is like now. So those are my two controversial takes. I don't know what you guys want to tackle, one or the other. I don't know. Oh man.
I tend to be pretty trad in my own personal life. But I don't necessarily think that it's the answer in terms of like the aesthetic way that it's treated right now.
Presented, yeah.
Yeah, I like I don't know if this is a spicy take or a weird take, but like all the kind of like alternative lifestyles, like just bundle them all together. I don't think any of that is like as threatening to like the health of society as just like something as simple as divorce.
Yeah.
And how like what's his name? Justin Murphy.
Justin Murphy, yeah.
Yeah, like he talks about this like adultery and divorce as just being this like shredder of social cohesion. And like I'm on the I've got kids now, and I have watched like my peers, and not to say that I haven't made my own mistakes with relationships, but like I've watched my peers follow various paths on like from the trad to the less trad cycle. And it seems to me like some of the most dysfunctional people who are basically going to be a wellspring of generational dysfunction because their kids are going to have difficulty dealing with the fallout that just you carry with it your whole life of like a broken family, and and then their kids and their kids. As you age, you start to see these like patterns, and I like the Ben Shapiros of the world who are raging against the kind of like queerification of the Zoomers or whatever. I think it's like almost a distraction from a bigger issue, which is just that no one expects anyone to kind of like do the daily hard work of like being in a committed relationship anymore. And you see this a lot with like New York Times op-eds, like this Agnes Callard thing. You familiar with this? This nerd autistic woman who
the philosophy professor.
Yes, who I mean, this is like I've seen like 10.
Tashawagi did that amazing thread on her. Yeah.
Yes, which I linked to. Like you see these all the time, and like your dear what is it, Dear Prudence, Slate's like advice columnist, and you see him in New Yorker and like New York Times op-eds and stuff, and basically they're just articles about women who blew up usually women who blew up their family on a whim because they stopped feeling like a little bit of the spice was gone, the thrill had dissipated.
Yeah.
Alex Kashuta talks about this too. And I like, if I could change one thing about the culture, it would be that, as opposed to the all the stuff that people get mad about. That's sort of related to what you were talking about. I don't know if it directly addresses your question.
No, yeah, it's true. But also the childhood thing is, I think, plays into that. I mean, a lot of it is like basically the millennials are just sort of like living in a world that was in some ways robbed from them.
Like, I would love to see a PUA, like a PUA type mentorship culture where you have like older guys kind of like trying to help younger guys instead of trying to help them like get dates. I would like to see that also. And like, how do you like not, how do you avoid the pitfalls that are causing everyone to like get divorced the second they stop feeling like, the love for their spouse? Like how could we build mentorship culture around people being like LFG, like we're gonna do this, we're gonna stick it out, and like even if you just wake up in the morning and can't stand your wife or your husband, like how do you build that?
Yeah, I think this
resilience, I guess, is the word.
Yeah, I also think that this has a lot to do with people putting their own historiography on the past. Like, people love to put their own take on boomer humor always being like wife bad or something like that. And I think that talking about the impact that, no fault divorce, or just how easy it is for people to go off on the issue of oh, you can just leave, just view relationships with an open door. Life's a journey. It's all about discovering yourself, and the consequences of that for anyone that wants to fulfill basic biological functions, like, oh, I want to get married and have kids. Well, that's going to be the problem, I think, for us to face down the line. And and it's funny because like people do want answers to that, and they do want mentorship. And so like, every time that Dave the Distributist does his podcast on Tuesdays, what do we see? There's a guy named Ben White with 2 super chats. They're the first ones that are read every time, and they're like dating updates, sort of like this casual, way to look at relationships and things. But I'm gonna shut up there because I'm noticing the private chat going off.
There is an alternative. The alternative future. Well, actually, you have to go, Dudley. So.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for having me. I do have to bounce to a wagey obligation, but really appreciate the chat and just the support.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, go subscribe to the Newright Post.
It's all the links are down below to his Twitter and to the Substack. So thank you very much for coming on, Dudley. This has been great.
My pleasure. Thanks, boys.
All right, ciao. All right.
Are we doing the stupid chats now?
Soon, but I was gonna say the alternative is Korean style self-extinction, femcel self-extinction. Did you see what I just quote tweeted, Prude?
No. My take on that whole thing though has been that we've reached the ultimate progressive reboot of Antigone, where instead of dying for familial tradition, it's a noble suicide to bury the civilization.
Oh my God, it's the civilization must voluntarily die out. So for those who don't know, apparently there's a whole like gender war going on between incels and femcels in Korea, South Korea. And there is this person that said, yes, that is our goal, to voluntarily extinct ourselves because the scrotes are so evil and terrible that they're going to basically do the Thomas Ligotti, but it's like it's not like a neurodivergent sort of like philosophy bro extinctionism, like nihilism that you have with like Thomas Ligotti and the conspiracy against the human race. This is a femcel version of that, where they hate the scrotes so much that they're not going to further the Korean people. But North Korea will, though. Juche will. See, Juche is the superior ideology to like liberalism colonizing South Korea and America making South Korea a vassal state, including its antinatalist ideology now, apparently. So exactly, Fuli. Best Korea always wins. And they managed to convince South Korea to basically go extinct with like the final boss. Like really antinatalism, pop antinatalism is the final boss of liberalism when you think about it. So it's even Alex Kashuta said that you basically liberate yourself into extinction. So there you go. The Korean femcels and all of these like girl boss. Yeah, I said this on Telegram. Go to my Telegram at Jenner Productions, where I like had this rant about the girl bosses in the West Yas queening this, like Black Twitter Yas queening it, and like being like this. So you go girls, yeah, we got to do this here in North America. It's like, wow, that's really liberation is to destroy your bloodline and to not deny yourself.
Well, they had that German advertisement about tying up the tubes. You know, my bloodline ends with me, as if like that's the nobler way to go.
Yeah. But that just infuriates me, Prude. Really, it's disgusting because I feel like it's indictment of both men and women that we've let it get this far. You know what I mean? Like I understand like a lot of it does come down to men just like not our inability to lead anymore and like letting it get this bad. But then at the same time, there is sort of like an archetypal, chthonic, terrible mother type of force that is going on. There is like, you know what I mean? Like there is, I don't know. It's just, it's terrible in all perspectives. And I get like the whole like unironic women hate is unhealthy. But then this type of stuff, the response to it is like insanity. It's literally civilization destroying. And I don't know what to do. I understand like the argument, but at the same time, I don't know. Maybe now that the taboo is over, maybe we should have a certain rad femme on this podcast. Would you be down with? No, I'm kidding.
No.
I mean, hey, there's no, there's no, that's,
no.
You wouldn't find that entertaining?
No.
I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? I feel like this sort of like each gender trying to like stab each other in the back. Like this is obviously a terrible and unhealthy situation. You know what I mean? Like I understand, like, listen, I'm liberal women respecter here. But even I just think that this whole like response to what they perceive as like patriarchal norms. And I think like, you could make an argument that in certain parts of Asia, even like in Japan, they do have like sort of a very, without saying too much, they do have kind of like a negative thing towards women, I mean, not everybody, of course. I mean, there is sort of like the stereotype of like the pent up incel rage in a lot of these societies. But at the same token, I mean, the response to say like to like, import this like Western girl boss ideology that where they're like, yes, consciously, we're going to like destroy ourselves in our civilization.
Well, this was a point that Landshark and a few others have made is that like
Landshark, another famous women respecter as well. We're fellow women respecters.
Was that, America's biggest culture, its biggest export is culture. This also includes pornography. And so imagine the impact that that's going to have, where, you know, there are people on other like foreign blogs, like relationship blogs. Like there was one in Sweden where it was just like, you know, what's a weird thing about your like sex life and like, you know, with your partner. And one of them like, we don't know a word of English, but we'll say things like, you know, oh God, or fuck when we're doing it, because like we're so porn brained. And it's like, geez, you know, and so it's just like, imagine exporting that or like this whatever podcast culture to South Korea or any other part of the world. Like it is civilizationally ending. And those are the things that we have to deal with at this point. And that's why I think there's going to be so much of a focus on this, is because, you know, there are some people I know who aren't going to save themselves, that they will want to thought it out until they're like 35 and still, or they'll try and be like Chelsea Handler and like post in a bikini when they're well into their middle age, trying to prove that they still got it. Whereas some men will Travis Bickle themselves into obscurity, others will go out. But I think a lot of people, as we see all the time on this channel, Twitter, and elsewhere, that, you know, people really do want out. Because we're Mr. Bones' wild ride fucking sucks. And
the femcells want out just as much as the incels, I feel.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to clarify, as you had clarified on Twitter, that that's also an extremely small number of people.
Yeah.
But the overall malaise that men and women are dealing with here, whether it's with dating or marriage, you know, like you have to destroy the culture of the open door. Like you have to shut it down. And you're right. Absolutely. Travis Bickle did nothing wrong. I will say that. I'm never going outside again.
Me neither.
Oh, you know,
at least until the end of March.
Why is that?
Well, I mean,
is this because of like travel restrictions, or is there something I'm missing here?
Oh, that too. No, because of the snow. I don't know. I'm paranoid about slipping and falling. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, that's a very valid concern.
I gotta lose about at least another 50 pounds to. I slipped and fell before, but I'm just paranoid, you know. Like, I mean, it's all right. Actually, it's getting warmer this week. You know what? When I was a kid, I used to love the winter, but now I kind of don't like. I like the weather to be chilly, but I just don't like snow anymore. Like, does that make sense, Prude? Should I just move to Vancouver?
I don't know. I don't know what Vancouver's like, so maybe not.
It's like,
I don't know. Like, I like
Seattle.
I like fall and winter because only for my vanity, because I love dressing like a dark academia chic and going out feeling like this is the only time I look attractive.
I like when it's getting chilly in autumn and you put on those first like fires, because we have a wood fireplace.
Yeah.
So I like that, but like,
I like going out, putting on my pea coat with like a nice like jacket and shirt and tie, and feeling
in Texas,
it gets cold.
What?
Believe it or not.
Oh yeah, it does get a bit cold in Texas.
I mean, it's nice it feels good to dress nice, is what I'm getting at with this point. I mean, it was even better when I lived in like El Paso, when like I lived in a city where I could like go downtown relatively quickly for a drink, and it was like that. But nowadays it's like, well, that shit's out the window. So, you know.
How was the German winter when you were there?
Well, I loved snow as a kid. So growing up with that, I have a fondness for it. It doesn't snow really a lot here. And when it does snow, it always freezes. And the state of Texas is never prepared for freezes. And so it's just like,
it's like all right, the King of the Hill episode.
Go fire up the generator, you know, like that's what we're going to have to do.
It's like that King of the Hill episode where Hank had to like find a way to get propane to people when it was snowing. Yeah, it's like they're freaking out.
People don't know how to drive, and it was even worse on the rare blue moon when it would snow in El Paso, because it'd be like it'd be like an eighth of an inch of snow, and you know, it's just like everyone forgot how to drive. All the Mexicans don't know how to deal with this. It's just a shit show.
Oh my god!
But
yeah, people don't realize that in like countries where there's no snow, they're like, how do you like? That's what my relatives say in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're like, how do you function when it's snowing? I go, yeah, the whole country still functions while it's snowing.
Yeah.
Just we remove it.
Go outside, shovel snow.
Yeah. They can't come. When my mother's when my relatives like my mother's aunts would like come here, they like couldn't believe it. They like it was like a total shock to them. Like what snow is like. I go, you mean to tell me they have to have like whole infrastructure just get rid of this stuff? I go, yes. Yes, that's what life in Canada is like. But yeah, man, no, but I just find this whole thing crazy, and I feel like what's startling to me is like the thousands of women that responded to this cut article about the voluntary extinction thing. It's just like that to me is really blackmailing, but you never know. I mean,
it's maddening.
Yeah.
But like I had said earlier, when you're on so many drugs that fuck with your hormones, your ability to perceive relations, mate selection, like just to get to the raw neurochemical basis of it, like these people are fucking insane.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to really add there. It's just like we are witnessing literal madness. And the reason why Andrew Yang, for all of his like shit libbery and his like techno optimism, what killed him the most was the idea that we should bring back asylums. And he wasn't wrong.
Or nunneries. That's another idea.
Well, that would require more of a revivalism, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, but I mean, that's the thing though. I think like, it's very funny because you'll never have the same like think pieces you do around the incel of like this unique danger that's going to like, all these type of like pieces, right? It's like the whole like femcel, like girl boss extinction thing, pop antinatalism, like that will always be like cheered on by that, like the remnants of like millennial 2010s media. Like the cut is very much like the last survivor of like that type of 2010s media space of like Jezebel and Exo. Remember Exo Jane?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like Tumblr, like
but this goes back to the point that Dudley made, and this is going to be my call to the older members of our audiences, whether they listen to this show or our own respective content. If you are a successfully married man who is Gen X or older, I think that's where the mentorship really comes into here, because I see everyone makes the same meme where it's like, all the married people look at Gen Z and feel like they got the last chopper out of Saigon. And it's just like, I get the joke. But the rest of us here would like to be like those last bits of Afghanis that are trying to cling on to the C-5 cargo plane and fall off of it 250 feet in the air. So, I think that maybe that kind of dialogue would be helpful to some extent, or mentorship. But I don't know. Those are just my 2 cents there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, that's what I mean. Like but then again, I feel like there's no like easy way of, I feel like that's why, again, this produces like what I was saying before, the endless content mill around like dating and women, relationships, hypergamy, blah, blah, blah. Like there's no easy way around like the sexual revolution society on it. If I'm going to be honest with you, like there's really no squaring it in the framework of current liberal society. Oh, hello, Seraphim Goose. You know what I mean? So there's no real way around it without a total revivalism or some kind of like collapse fantasy or some other sort of like unironic like totalitarianism that like this woman on TikTok is like complaining about. That's not real. You know what I mean? Like,
also, while we're live on air, and because I see Cine animations in chat, send him the damn frog already.
Yeah. No, like there's no. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. There's no like real way of getting around it. So in the absence of that, it's the much more softer cultural way of like promoting values that can instruct people. You know what I mean? Like that's the only real like non-violent, non-political way of doing it. But I feel like that as well gets caught up in the sort of meta, the image of thought that the internet produces, which is a parasociality or a fandom, really, because then it becomes a lifestyle fandom and it becomes subject to, like, here's the thing. But then again, I'm saying this knowing full well that LARPing still has a power on its own. You know what I mean? If you could like get an e-girl to like LARP as a trad wife to the point where she actually has a few kids, she actually lets you, have a sort of a cream pie nationalist activism, as I like to call it. God, I can't believe I just said that. Did you guys hear what I just said, by the way?
Yeah, I think everyone did.
I'm gonna put it in the chat.
To answer Cine in the chat, my eyes are hazel, close to light green, light brown.
Uh-oh.
Well, he's animating us. We talked about this like last episode.
I'm going to pin that comment somehow.
Oh, that you're a cream pie nationalist activist. It seems pretty anti-natalist considering
Me
you're
and
not putting it
Exile
where it's
Judge.
supposed to be.
Is that anti-natalist though?
Are you putting it where it needs to be, Gio?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know. No, it's so funny.
Yes, Giovanni, we heard you.
It's so funny though. Like I keep coming back to that, how we've become so detached by nature that we fetishize what is the most natural form of sex, which is we have a term for it called cream pie. Like that's how crazy it is. We fetishized impregnation because we become so detached from it. This is what the pill has done.
We literally talked about this before we even started the digital archipelago on Content Minded.
Right,
was that,
yeah.
Oh, I have a breeding kink. It's like, oh, so you want to have children? You know?
I know. I keep coming back to this. I wonder why. It's not telling
myself. Because you want kids? This is your sublimated baby fever talking.
Yeah, it could be that. You're right. It's true. But so anyways, the last point before we get to stupid chats, the point about the childhood thing, Prude, is like, was that take too far out there for people? But then I noticed like I was getting some pushback, and I just don't want the hassle. I don't want like an Area Need for Breed 2 Underground 2. Oh God. Need for
there you go. Also known as normal sex. You know.
What a kink. Did I tell you about the story about how I procured the Canadians showcase series kink?
You told me, and you told the audience 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I had to.
They call me the U.S. military because when they say I pull out, it's a lie.
I love that boomer joke. That's amazing.
I have City Animation saying I have people commenting I have a new kink on videos of mine that portray a normal heterosexual relationship. Is this the way that we trick the Coomers back into normalcy? Is that we just make heterosexuality really hot again?
I said this back in 2015. I was gonna review cringe compilations with my friend IRL. And so I'd like record that, like us speaking on our phone. And way back in 2015, I had this observation that like it was about this like daddy, like it was like this daddy dom thing that like this like woman would talk about her like relationship where they like sign a contract, blah blah blah. And really it was like a natural relationship, but because it had to have that layer of kink on top of it, it was like the libs allowed themselves the space of having a more traditional like male led like homestead relationship, but because it had that like baby dad, like what do they call baby daddy? Is that what it's called? Dom.
Baby daddy is typically when you're not married and you have a child with somebody you're not with. That's the
not baby daddy, like daddy dom fetish.
Oh, the like DDLG thing.
Yeah. So
we've turned the chat into
daddy daughter. There you go, daddy daughter dom. Thank you, neon suspenders. Neon suspenders. That's a good name. I think they have neon suspenders. They have like those jackets with the LEDs. Like I know in New Japan, El Fantasmo wears that, where it's like it's got the neon like laser things. It's pretty cool. I like El Fantasmo. I think he's gonna leave Bullet Club. He's too
rainbow LED light up, skinny wide suspenders.
Oh God.
Oh, and then they have some that have like the Pan-African color.
Oh my God.
When did
That's incredible.
Cringe.
NATO tomato. No, we're not going to answer that question. I'm not going to put that on the screen, but I know that's a pretty popular subgenre in prawn, put it that way. Again, there's this article I've wanted to write on this stuff for 2 years now, but I'm just afraid. I'm afraid to write it.
Write it.
I should. I'm MILF and like this type of content. I came across this video. I was binging this guy who used to be a psychiatrist, His name is, I think, Douglas McClay or something on YouTube. If you like type in why I'm no longer a therapist, it'll be like the first video. And he's a pretty good guy. You know, he critiques psychoanalysis and he critiques psychiatry. But he was talking about that, about like the whole like thing about around like this thing about like the MILF thing and like how it's really like it comes from a place of like anxiety and like our sort of men having a very like unsecure relationship with women nowadays. And like the thing is, he's kind of like a lib, so he like talks about women, blah blah blah. He's like a women respecter, but he was like hitting at a few points where unironically, when you do have this sort of like normalization of broken homes and divorce, and you have like women unconsciously like grafting relationships onto their male children, it's not even like a conscious thing like abuse or whatever. But when you have the scenario where the only man in the home is like a male child, you have like a lot of sort of very like weird boundary crossings that happen at a very early age because of it. So the reason you do see like relationships in prawn that rely upon dominant female leads that are like towards younger men, like that's why I think you see this, because you have like whole generations of broken homes and like female empowerment and all this crap. And like, you know, I can have kids and be a single mom, but still be a girl boss. They will unironically graft on these roles of a, you know, male relationship onto their male sons, you know? So, I mean, it's not even a conscious thing. It's like an unconscious longhouse mommy type of, it's unironically longhouse. You know what I mean? Like that's, I don't know if I should really develop this thought, but you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
We'll see it on the next solo variety mega show, won't we?
We will, because I asked my patrons another round of Q&A stuff. So if you're a patron of mine, or if you want to become a patron, go to Giant Productions at patreon.com/Giant Productions, and you can ask me questions, and I will answer them on the next solo variety mega show, which I think will come out 2 weeks from now, because next week I've been asked by him to release the episode. Next week I have a very important special guest. My good friend Zero HP Lovecraft will be on Content Minded. Finally, will be on Content Minded. So next week is the ZHP episode. We're asked him questions about postmodernism and writing and art, and it's gonna be great. And I didn't get to cover everything because he had to cut out earlier, but I'm gonna have to obviously bring him back on the show. So yeah, it's gonna be great. Next week is ZHP and Content Minded. And of course, the next installment of John David Ebert's Art After Metaphysics will be up. Art After Metaphysics will be up this Sunday. And this Friday, I'm going to come out with a new article. So a lot of content stuff. I know this week I didn't come out with anything because I had to push stuff back. So yeah, do you have anything to show, Prude?
I love Record Deepness saying, "How much can I pay to forget?"
Well, you could subscribe to the $20 tier, which I have to print off more woodcuts for my $20 and $50 patrons. So I'm very sorry about that. But I usually wait a few months just to make sure that people are devoted, right? So yeah, I know I'm a bastard that way.
Well, man, I've been busy.
It's a lot of money to ship woodcuts now, man. It's a lot of money
to ship anything. This, like, good Lord, it's bad.
I just shipped one to Sweden. You know what it cost me? $80. No, $100. $100. $80 from Medicare ZHP Masochist for $80. Mr. Patchouli for $80. Honey Bud for $20.
I love how we're gaslighting them.
Yeah, Honey Bud for $20. Honey Bud, if you want me to say that with the utmost excitement in my voice, give me $20 right now, Honey Bud. I'm not gonna end the stream till Honey Bud gives me $20. No, I'm kidding. I would never go so low as to con my audience into that. I'm very sorry. Cine Animation for $50. No, $58 because YouTube takes a cut. So
with gusto.
Seraphim Rose for 100. Oh, that's too much.
Don't know how you got him back from the dead.
I know, eh? I got Seraphim. We got Seraphim Rose on Digital Archipelago.
Oh well, boy.
Seraphim Rose. Seraphim Goose. Did I say Seraphim Rose? We're gonna bring him back.
Call out for not sneaking. Stefan Molyneux for one. Oh god, can we just get to the actual super chats, Gio?
All right, let's get to the. I'm gonna have to scroll up now. So I believe the first few ones are Lou Templar. Cringe. I can't believe he got rid of the name Cringe Walker. That's
he
my
explained
favorite name.
why with Isaac Simpson.
Why did he? Oh, he did.
Yeah. So he went on Isaac Simpson's podcast, The Carousel.
Yeah, I saw it. I have to listen to that episode.
Well, I mean, he's also the guy that was responsible for all like the fashy Yee Photoshop edits. Which I did not know they were his, and so to find out that he had these things that were done with that got viral, millions of views. But yeah,
I changed my name too.
He explained that he changed it because like he made it originally when AA was doing the Emperor from Star Wars is actually based.
Yeah.
And but now he's Lou Templar, and I don't mind calling him that. I just hate his godforsaken Twitter handle because it's like anytime I type it out, it still doesn't pop up. So it's just like, very
yeah.
Oh, but Seraphim Goose, there's a diocese in the nation of Georgia that has already locally canonized him as a saint. So we're one step closer to Father Seraphim. I'm just gonna start calling him Saint Seraphim Rose. Like that's how it's
too
starts.
Bad that George is cringe though. George is
Judas with the 30 silver. Oh God.
It's too bad
that's on purpose. Well, screw you too, Lou Templar. Maybe I wanted to @ you on Twitter, but if you want to keep it that way.
Yeah, well, I can't read because I have to go to the super chat. So, anyways, $2 for Lou Templar. $2. What does it mean to get griped? Well, you're experiencing that right now on Twitter with the Amartites. So,
oh, he is.
Getting griped is where it doesn't just mean gripper avatars, but what does it mean? What does it mean get griped?
No. I'm asking, is Lou Templar getting griped right now on?
Yeah, he had some takes about eugenics and stuff that were not.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, no, also like he was
not
arguing
cozy.
about. Yeah, he was talking about Nietzsche. That's usually.
Oh, because he got into a fight with Uberboyo.
That's what it was. Yeah. But I don't know. Uberboyo's thread was
historically illiterate, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah. I mean, Uberboyo is a friend of mine, but let's just say that I think Uberboyo got the response that he wanted to get. So.
Well, that's how Twitter works, according to Bizlet. You just say something with some veil of authority, and go
there you go. That was the best. Like that tweet, though. Like the way that the incel views women is the way that Christianity views the those type of people. So, do I do a good Uberboyo voice?
No,
I don't.
Maybe I don't listen to him enough.
The way that the incel views.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, maybe. I can't do I can do Irish a little bit. I just can't do English for some reason. Anyways, for $10 by Lou Templar, I've been using the term Fabian man, one who takes small steps to fix society, town hall and parent-teacher conferences, local referendums, and proper proposals, 1,000 mosquito bites, sucking the POZ out. Well, I mean, I guess reverse engineering Fabian socialism is probably I know that this was a big boomer truth, Alex Jones talking point back in the day about Fabianism, but it is largely correct. I mean, Fabian socialism is sort of like the gradual march of the institutions. Hey, Prude, have you done anything about Fabianism?
No, I haven't. I mean, there's a lot of literature on the right that will say that it's
cultural Marxism, Fabianism.
Well, they'll say that Fabianism works for the left because it empowers the state, but it doesn't really work if you want to constrain it or put your own morals in. Yeah, but I mean, that's some Murray Rothbard talking points from the 90s. It's not. Fabianism, I haven't looked at Fabianism enough to have my own original position or things staked out on it. So I will hold myself back on my tongue and feign ignorance here.
I think that it's definitely some things are worth to dig up in terms of conservatism, like old John Bircher stuff. But then other stuff, it's sort of like it's been so played off by like the boomer cons.
Well, like Joseph Sobrand's stuff has aged like fine wine. Like Notes for a Reactionary Tomorrow is very accessible.
His article on sex,
I have not read that one.
Like, I think it was posted on Marna forums about sex being like a social currency. Like, in that people that are like outside of the world of sex are like sort of condemned into like a weird like non-person status. Like, I think he predicted the incel, really.
Interesting.
And he wrote this in like 2004. When did he die?
2010.
2010. Who died in 2007? St. Francis?
I think so. Yeah, he died in 2007.
Yeah. Did your paper on Paul Godfrey get published?
My manuscript is due August 1st, so I have time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. That's
no pressure.
No pressure. Well, I owe him like 8,000 words, so yeah, I gotta get to it.
You got enough to play with though. 8,000.
Oh yeah, I already know what I'm writing about, and so it'll work quite well.
Yeah.
Do either of you do debate? Sorry, Seraphim Goose. No, I don't really do a debate show. I've done one debate once on the internet, and it is behind Apostolic Majesty's paywall, and I don't expect to do that anytime.
I'm a Deleuzian. I don't debate. To quote Sam Chris.
You kind of hosted a debate show a while back.
I hosted a debate for 2 years, so I'm a hypocrite in that regard. If I ever wanted to do a debate, it would have to be like, I don't know. I mean, I don't believe
it would have to be like a structured. If you were to do a debate, and it would be like, okay, you're gonna do it like a college format, where like 15 or like 5-minute opening, 3-minute rebuttals. Like I would be okay with that because that's my like home turf. But if it's just gonna be like we're gonna let a guy ramble, and then it's gonna be like a disorganized like mess, then
like a BTR debate.
Yeah.
For 2 years, man, I always tried to turn debates into conversations. But what were you gonna say?
No. I'm not a fan of them either, and I think that we've evolved past the internet blood sports era.
Maybe I could debate. Who would I debate? Med Gold on the women question.
I don't know.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, definitely don't go on BTR modern day debate. Yeah.
Speaking of geocells, one of my top capos, one of my top guys, one of my top hard hitters, internet friend. Don't think I ever got grifted by Anonymous. Well, he was actually internet friend. I think he was on 4chan back in the Anonymous days. So
good to know.
Yeah. Geocells would get what? Geocells would gripe. The geocells would gripe you, Geo. Yeah, I feel that's true. I mean, I'm Geo's top guy. Yes, you are Geo's top guy. One of them. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like the geocells would come to my defense, but like I notice every time I do get a beef on Twitter that people do come to my defense. I feel like quite like that. So, Comfy Lard. Is that Comfy Lad or I was gonna say Comfy Lard. Comfy Lard for $4.99. Love your stuff, Gio. I would love to see Brett Stevens and you talk about stuff one day. That would be great. I wonder, is there a way to get Brett Stevens on? I wonder if I could just email him. You ever read America, Prude?
No, I have not.
Brett Stevens is America, right? With a K. America, Brett Stevens. He's great. He's an old hat, man. He's the oldest of old hats. Yes, editor of the far right blog, America.org. Affiliated with Iron March. Brett Stevens, I love how he doesn't care about like absolutely anything. So he just like he blogs every single day. He's like he's the oldest of old hats. I quite like America. I remember back in the Thermidor days we would talk about him. He's like, I mean, I know like it's hard to write a blog every single day, but he's pretty good at it. Brett Stevens, I don't know if he does podcasts though.
That or you could just read or write down some questions and get back to him.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently I could just email him and he would come on. So Chetty needs me. All right, I'll do it. So let's see. I also saw KJ in the chat. would it be shameless if I asked Kate? Never mind. I'm going to engineer my parasociality to get KJ if she admits to having if she's a boyfriend-free girl. Should I do that, Prude, or that would be irresponsible of me?
You are a man with your own agency, but I think you should
I should
have a little more self-respect.
You're right. But I mean, imagine if a Gio cell becomes my GF. That'd be quite something.
Like Cindy says, you can date a fan, but only once.
That's
Otherwise,
true.
You're in trouble.
That's very true. That's never gone. There is so many instances of dating fans that has not gone on well for a lot of content creators. It's just, that's not good. That's probably not a good idea. But anyways, then how else am I going to meet women? I mean, I don't go outside. So
I can't help you there. And Kate J is happily married.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Okay, well. Man, I'm stunned. Anyways,
you can still answer the questions of other people sending you money.
That's right. I totally forgot my other. Yeah. God. Here comes a big one. Mr. Patchouli for $10. Sneed. That's the best one right there. Oh, man. Thank you very much, my good friend, Mr. Patchouli. Longtime GeoCell, longtime friend. Thank you very much. And finally, Luthemplar for $5. Been reading about disputations. So he... Yeah,
yes, those kinds.
I've been reading about disputation-style debates where crowds swear to adopt the winning side's view publicly. Should be brought back. Well, that's impossible to enforce. What do you think of that, Prude?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to go back to the style of the Inquisition and asking people to adopt the... I mean, you want more conversos? That's the only thing I should say.
Yeah.
Oh, there was one that we missed from last week that I...
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Who was it from?
It was from Mr. Owen Zaleski, and he sends $10 US. Thank you very much. He says, won't be able to catch the stream. He says, directing a high school play. I wanted to ask about how to get started as an artist in this sphere of the internet, as well as advice about being a Catholic high school art and drama teacher. I want to help students grow as artists and Christians. God bless. Well, Gio, you are the resident artist on this podcast, so how would you tell people to get started?
Don't do it. No, I'm kidding. I think that if you can maintain a normie position long enough without getting canceled, that's probably good. But I would say, okay, if you want to be a school art teacher and an internet anon, find a way to separate your work from your real identity if you do have a teaching job. But if your school board is like a private Christian school, then that's obviously different. Look at KJ, sorry, Jill, with a black heart, even with a black heart. Oh my God. Terrible. Anyways, okay, so so the art side, the dissident art side, if you don't have anything to lose and you're comfortable with posting your artwork along with anons who are racist and sexist and talk about cancelable things, then do it. But if not, I would maintain kind of like what Wide Dog and what Dora does. I would maintain an anon account to post your artwork that is of a dissident variety. That's just common sense. And also, I wouldn't go as far as to post certain symbols and certain funny spinny wheels on the artwork. You know what I mean? That's probably a good policy. Just to make sure the tracker accounts don't go after you. But in terms of our teaching, our teaching is very interesting. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I think that with our teaching, I feel like you have to start from the basics and the fundamentals, and you have to try to get your students to actually work from the ground up. So have one class that's about color theory and about mixing. Have another class about non-representational art or found art or something try to maintain stuff that's interesting. And there's plenty of resources out there. but I would like want your students, like, especially if it's high school where they can have a capacity to like actually make something decent, encourage the fundamentals of like drawing and painting and like other things, and like stick to that. And then like also do like art exploration stuff where like you get them to like look up different artists that they're interested in, and also get them to, if they can, to draw from life. And don't focus on like, this is my favorite anime, this is my favorite cartoon, this is my favorite blah blah blah, and like I want to like copy. Try to encourage them to draw from life. So like, for example, do like, I don't know, like put an apple on the front of the class one day and tell them to draw that. And get them to like really think about the basics. That's my best advice. Don't get them to be like don't fall for like trendy stuff. Like try to hammer home like the basic like art school 101, atelier 101 type of stuff. And then like from there, like get them, like do little things to get their interest. That's my advice. If I were to structure in our class, I would do that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just try your best never to compromise on your ideals either. I mean, especially if you work at a Catholic school. I mean, teachers that are actually sincere about their beliefs, religious or otherwise, and their convictions, those are the teachers that people remember. So I would keep that in mind, Owen.
Yeah, try to inspire them. Try to, like, I know that sounds
not in the cringe, my captain, Dead Poet Society
you
way.
You can do anything.
But instill for them values that they're going to look back on and be thankful for. Because, I mean, like we talked about it earlier today, like a lot of kids are just living in the ruins of single-parent households and parental abdication of responsibility. So, I mean, if you're going to be the guy, like as a teacher that steps up to set a good example, like those guys are needed now more than ever. And they will thank you for it, whether they know you or not 10 or 20 years from now. They will thank you.
Yeah, 100%. Some of my best teachers that I still remember, when I was even in high school and then especially in uni, so it's a hard job teaching, man. It's hard, especially nowadays, especially if like the kids aren't interested. It's being a TA for a little bit. It was kind of, man, it's kind of not good when like you're trying to maintain interest and, but yeah, so I guess we're wrapping up now. So what do you have coming up this Saturday?
Sure. So this Saturday we'll continue on with American Diplomacy series with the lectures. We'll talk about the open door policy. This one will actually be pre-recorded. I will be out this Saturday cleaning up my church and beautifying it because we've got some exciting news about a priest coming up soon, which will be great. And then, but I can happily tell you that I was on Anthony of Westgate's podcast, The Reversion, which is available. I shared that on the community tab as well as on Substack's The Cross Post. And nice. I was on Orrin McIntyre's yesterday as well. So it was a fun conversation with regards to, erasing the past. We talked about Alexander Adams, a little bit of Vox Day, a little bit of Rizard Legutko. Lots of fun stuff in there for you all to check out. I will have a new Real Talk up for patrons to view. It will come out probably at the end of the month. And by all means, if you're new to my channel, then by all means hit subscribe and go to the wonderful links down below. Subscribestar lets you see posts early, answering Q&As, and getting access to all essays behind the Substack paywall. And pretty soon I'm going to have mugs available to top tier patrons.
Nice. Also, I have mugs available at the $20 tier on my Patreon, but the Substack, but a Patreon deals with that. So if you want a mug with my painting on it, with my iconic, Water Moon Bodhisattva image, then, go to patreon.com/Productions. And so, yeah, next week is 0 HP Lovecraft. And tonight at 7 p.m. EST on Restoring Order, I'm going to be, of course, with Patrick Casey and with Nightmare Vision. We're going to talk about Ricky Vaughn's trial and other things, of course. So, yeah, that's going to be great. Patrick invited me on again. And I guess me and Nightmare Vision have a good chemistry, so I would definitely want to get Nightmare Vision on Content Minded. And also, next week on Digital Archipelago, we also have another exciting
Oh yeah, we're
One
doing
interesting
we're doing a movie stream next week.
Yeah.
We are going over the 1990s triple feature of Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks rom-com film. So we'll be reviewing Joe versus the Volcano, You've Got Mail, and Sleepless in Seattle.
I can't believe you suggested
90s Kino, baby. You've Got Mail and Joe versus the Volcano are my darkest guilty pleasures. I love those movies. So yeah, we're gonna review the Meg Ryan Tom Hanks love fest.
I think I watched You Got Mail in like 2005.
Yeah, internet friends. So drive down to your local Blockbuster, go pick them up.
Oh man, I wish, bro. Don't tell me that.
We're having some 90s Kino next week, friends.
I can't believe you got us.
Yeah, and Dave Chappelle's in You've Got Mail.
That's right, he is. Have you ever watched Half Baked?
Yeah.
The only reason I watched that because it had a Days in the News song in it. So all right, lads. See you next week on Prude's channel. Go subscribe. Go give us money. Go to Prude's Subscribe Star. Go to my Substack while I still have it. And also our Substacks. We both have a paid version. So if you don't want to give us money on Patreon or Subscribe Star,
there's always Substack and Buy Me a Coffee.
Will I review Fritz Lang's Scarlet Street? What's Scarlet Street?
That's not the Fritz Lang movie everyone thinks about at first.
I think it might be.
1945. Okay.
Scarlet Street, American noir film of a middle-aged painter in order to steal his artwork. The film was... Oh, yeah, I think I've heard of Scarlet Street. Yeah, I should watch. Edward G. Robinson is in it.
All right.
There you go. So anyways, thank you so much. Thank you to our good friend Dudley Newright. Go to his Substack for all of the weekly Kino that the sector produces, whether it be tweets or articles or so forth. So... Middle-aged painter Sims for a thought. Oh boy. All right. So as always, God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet.
See you, gents.